Billy Carson has returned. And if you're to go look, you'd see that I called out Billy Carson a long time ago. You know, I'm not like, it's hard to say. Like I've been in this conspiracy world my whole life. I mean, I never believed in Jesus. I used to get in trouble in school, but it was never because I was a bad kid necessarily. It's because I would constantly stand up to what I didn't think was right, which was, not always right for sure. But it wasn't like I was the kid that was picking fights or vandalizing or anything like that. And as far as like, the truther thing goes, I mean, I was there when the internet started working and going in that direction. I can remember, I can remember, 2008, 2009, like, I remember I used to document the chemtrails all the time. And at one point, like if I took a picture of a chemtrail and I posted it to Facebook, suddenly my phone wouldn't work anymore. Like the picture part wouldn't work anymore. It would make the click noise, like it took the picture, belch, but it wouldn't do it. A few days would go by, and then suddenly I'd be able to take pictures again. Be a bad chemtrail day. I'd take a bunch of pictures, upload them, and then my phone would stop. And I pointed it out to my friends, what's going on with this, blah, blah, blah. And you'd have the average shit talk, oh, you're crazy, maybe something's just wrong with blah, blah, blah. Who knows? And then the TSA thing came out. And I can just remember saying to, like, certain people, Luis Guajardo. Like, what do you think of this? I wonder where Luis is, good old Luis Guajardo. Privy, the owner of Privy, or at least he was. And I looked him up the other day. I couldn't find any recent stuff on him. But I he was this guy. Luis was this guy who, like, if I'm this one, he was my opposite. Like, where I would get in trouble for every little thing, he would get away with every little thing. We played football together in 9th grade, and I was better than he was, but he got the nod because I talked too much shit, I guess. I don't know. And I know people will say, stupid shit because you don't know. But like there are, we're doing the kickoff drills, and our team wasn't big enough to have an offense and a defense. So they're doing the kickoff drills, and the coach has me being the return man by myself because he's going to teach me a lesson, right? He loved to try to teach me lessons. So I would have to return the football against the entire team by myself, without rest in between. Okay, do it again. And one of the kicks I actually returned. I actually got through the entire team by myself. But then Luis got the nod. Like, just little shit like that. But Luis ended up going off and, like, living a life that any of us could only dream of. He in his 20s, he had this shitty band that got a song on the I Know What You Did Last Night or Last Summer soundtrack, I believe. I believe that's the movie it was on. And he used to post pictures of him and his goofy band playing, they'd play at like the Playboy Mansion and shit. But he was always like, he was like this fringe conspiracy guy, right? Off topic. Good for you. And he would see my posts, and like, he was the thing about Luis is he's actually a really smart guy. So like, we can call it conspiracy theory, but at the end of the day, if you're even reasonably intelligent, you see the lines in the sky and you go, what the fuck is that? There's the plane right there. Literally nothing coming out of it. Not even the small thing. I don't know if you guys can even see it. It's so small. That plane that made that stopped right there, and now it's flying right there. Wonder if it'll start back up, if they had to change the tanks or something like that. Do you guys see it back behind the... You can actually hear it a little bit. Which is one of those giveaways, right? The fact that you can hear planes, why doesn't the sound just go off into space? Why would the sound be reflected down to us? Look, it started right there. You can see just a slight little line, but I guess not. We'll see. We'll see if they turn the shit back on. It's all the way over there now. Oh, turn it back on. There we go. It's back on. You see that? You see how that just appeared? Interesting how that works, isn't it? So from here to here, it just stops. What is it? That's atmospheric conditions that make that happen? Is that what that is? But back in, oh look, that plane's going towards Selfridge Air Force Base. Oh, you can see it shining right there. You see the shine on it? This plane is going to Detroit Metro Airport, south of here. Nothing coming out of that plane. That's going to go land south of east. And what's east of here is... And then it's Canada. Coincidence, right? So Luis would this shit, and he'd be like, it is weird, I think you're a crazy conspiracy guy. But it's weird. And I've always been the guy that's like, look, if you have some sort of in, I could use the help. So Luis, there was this one point where Harvard had put out a study showing that fluoride caused all these rats to get these incredible tumors. And I shared the link with him, and by the time he got to it, I think he might even saw the story once, and then when he went back to it, the story was gone. The link was dead. And he was a real good computer guy. This is like 2007, maybe 8. I don't know. This is before I even have kids. No, this is like 2009. So he tries reaching out to the Harvard website, like, hey, what the fuck are you doing? What happened to that story? Who took that story down? Why did that story get taken? Like, he tried to get information and they wouldn't. Never got any response. But he at one point we have this meeting here in Michigan. He comes back home to Michigan. And we have this meeting where he's he's thinking about financially backing me, basically. And we meet at this diner in Northville, where we're from, and he pulls out his laptop and he goes to look up the myheadradio.com page. And he's like, this is really weird. This is like, there's a website here, but it's only a website if you're a novice to computers. If you know anything about computers, you realize like this website is almost like a shell. It's a shell to convince somebody that there's a website, somebody stupid like me that there's a website. It's nothing. Nobody will ever find your website. None of the keywords are associated with it that should be, you know, spoken word and poetry and all these things. Nothing is there like that. There's no way anybody would ever search anything and find it. And he just thought it was weird. But he did see the potential. So he introduces me to Lisa Perez. I think that's her name. P-E-R-E-Z. Lisa, L-I-Z-A. Who is connected to Jimmy Iovine. And I'm supposed to, you know, I talked to her on the phone, and she's like, yeah, I heard your stuff. It's really great. I really think we have something here. I'm like, I'm out or something. I'll be back in town in like a week. At that time, put together a compilation, and you know, we'll go from there. And Luis tells me that he's interested in, he's going to fund my demo, basically. My stuff's good, but it needs that professional touch. And, you know, he's going to fund that, and then we'll present it to Jimmy Iovine and you know, go from there. And I'm like freaking out. I'm thinking, Jesus, this is it. I'm going to fucking make it. So then like a week goes by, maybe two. And I call or I either get a call or I call them. And Luis and Liza are like driving somewhere. And they're in the car together, and like they're going to Vegas or something like that. And suddenly they're like almost making fun of me. And I'm like, what is going on here? You know? And he's like, yeah, you just need to put together a proper demo. And I'm like, what do you mean? You said that you were gonna, you know, you were gonna help and hire the right kind of studio time and all that stuff. We were gonna, what do you mean? And he's like, and she's like, yeah, just give us a nice demo. And they're like laughing and shit. And I just thought it was just so weird. Like, what the fuck happened? This was before I understood the phone call thing. And I'm just devastated at this point. Like this was one of the hardest blows I ever took. I had just had our first kid. We had just had our first kid, and I was, you know, I was at that point like I need to either have this music thing work or, you know, quit and just get a job and take care of my family. And the kick in the nuts that was what I needed to be able to stop and just be like, fuck this, I'm so sick of this shit. You know, my band had imploded because my bandmate said that us getting pregnant would throw things off, and it was just this weird thing. And it, you know, now that I am as far removed from the situation as I am, I look back on it and it was just weird. You know, my bandmate called himself Wex Wexner, which, if you know anything, like the Wexner name is directly associated with Epstein. And like, it was just a really weird thing. And my bandmate, my Head Radio bandmate, he was insane. and he would act like, he was the star of the group, and it would take him, months to finish a song, and it was just this really weird thing. But at the same time, he was a Shell oil executive, and he would put money into things, which was more than I could do, and he would just barely do enough to keep me involved. And My Head Radio actually made some really great songs, and you know 2 albums worth, proper out, like, it was, we did great shit. But Luis, at the same time, he then disappears, and he comes back like a month or two later, and suddenly he is launching this company called Privy, which is a luxury rental place. The big nice homes that you see in music videos and shit like that, they're all rentals. And Privy was one of the places that provided that. And it was like, and he comes back, and suddenly he is, everything conspiracy theory is goofy. He's like attacking me in weird ways, and like, it's just strange. It just seems like, what the fuck happened? How did you go from, what are those chemtrails? What are those lines in the sky? To, oh, those are just pretty lines in the sky. How did you go from, the fluoride in the water? That's a really weird thing, though. Who gives a fuck? Like, and at one point, Luis says to me, "Why do you care about kids so much? Those aren't your kids." And I was just like, "What do you mean?" Because I can't. A big something had happened where, some sort of pedo thing was exposed. My grandpa was on subs. They're definitely real. Oh, so stupid. But it was, there's been multiple times where I thought I was there. I thought I met the person. They liked what I do, blah, 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 blah. And then something happens, and I just don't hear from them anymore. Like, it very much seems like they got the phone call. I don't really know how else to understand it. I don't know how somebody goes from, I'm all in on this, to suddenly you're not. And really, it makes sense. As much as, some of us may be programmed to, I ain't just commit conspiracy theory. It makes sense. The system is absolutely going to find people like me and do what it can to hold us down and shut us down. It's not really hard to do. Is there a backstory behind your sub theory? Notice how these clowns hide behind the title. Nobody's asked anything about Billy Carson. Obviously, if the title means so much, then you would be like, Billy Carson, what the fuck with Billy Carson? So obviously it's just interference for interference sake. And I've said before, many times, if you want to watch, if you want to have the sub debate, then just go watch the first 9 parts. It's not like you only watch live feed. So just treat it like any other video you watch, and go to the first 9 parts and debunk everything I have to say. It took me a good 9 parts. Well, it didn't take me that long, but I talked about it for like 9 days straight. We thoroughly debunked it. I even talked about it yesterday. But it doesn't, you probably think it's just pretty lines. You probably think I could do something about the internet I have associated with my phone, right? I manipulate the internet that's attached to my phone. My T-Mobile phone. It's not even Metro piece of shit. It's a T-Mobile phone. Isn't that interesting how that works? And I've had shit happen with T-Mobile that none of you have had happen. And you know, a lot of you would just, the fail-safe is that you don't believe it. So, you know, you'll just go, well, I don't believe it. So that makes it easier for me. Like I have any reason to lie. You know, there's literally no reason to lie or talk about controversial shit. It's not how you get attention. If I wanted attention, I'd sell Jesus. Jesus is a proven commodity. Most of you have already proven that you fall for that nonsense. I could make $1 zillion being a televangelist. I choose to talk about these things. I mean, the reality is it's not a choice for me. If I could choose it, I would choose otherwise. But it's a motivation, it's a drive that comes from doing the right thing and saying the right things. Sure, buddy, you can control it all. Can you back up your theory about subs? Yep, it's just methed out ranting. It's like you don't even hear what's said, right? What's the point of addressing a clown when the clown isn't going to hear what's said? Flat out, if you really want the in-depth debunk, if you were really interested in the topic, you would immediately go watch the other video. And then you could sit there and pause it and rewind and, you know, and debunk every point I'm making pretty thoroughly. But you don't seem to actually want to have the conversation. And nothing I could bring up now is shit you're going to address. But this is the stupidity that comes my way from these fake profiles, right? It's fake. A lot of these profiles are bots. And I don't think that we as a sheep society realize just how the lengths that these chosen monsters will go to stay in the position they're in, to maintain the lives that they have. Yeah. Look, we got another one. Just normal. It's just normal. Had to switch the tanks. Just normal. People will always have a conversation. No, they won't. No, they won't. And again, the majority of the things you watch on YouTube aren't live videos. They're not live videos about one thing and you're going to insist on talking about something else. Most of you watch videos that people upload. So like I say, go to the first 9 parts, Submarines Are Not Real, part 1 through 9, and debunk all you can. You know, do what you have to do. And I love how, and then you have these other fools that act like my feed is the only option YouTube provides them. They just have to click on my feed because YouTube suggests it, if that's indeed the case. Like they can't just skip over it. They can't just say, I don't want to see this feed. They have to click on it. And it's the same people that don't even know what schizophrenic means. They just use it's the same group of people using the same dumbass tactics because they don't have anything else. You can't even get the fucking, the thing right. Yeah, I bet you aren't. I bet you there are all these humans that do not give a shit about genocide, that don't give a shit about the pedophilia aspect, that just want me to stop talking or talk about something different or whatever. It's goofy how this works, but it's what you expect from a chosen system that is inferior on all levels. They really are inferior. The only way they're not inferior to us is their savagery. is what they're willing to do. They're willing to starve out an entire population, most of which are children at this point, for the fucking fun of it. I mean, there's not even really a necessity for it as far as any sort of action goes. But, you know, that's who we're up against, right? That's who we're up against. That's who sends these profiles here. Not one of them actually addresses the genocide, the pedophilia, the slavery, none of that. They just want to talk shit. That makes sense, right? And so, like, it brings me back to Billy Carson. Was this guy, like, I've been in this conspiracy world for a long time. You know, there was a long time where I parked cars. And when you're parking cars, there's a lot of downtime. You work really hard when you have to, but there's a lot of downtime. And during that time, I would watch whatever I could get my hands on. Back then, YouTube actually used to be pretty good about, there was just variety. Like 6 Million Lies was on YouTube at one point. You know, and I watched everything I could get my hands on. Loose Change, Tunka Sheila, Zeitgeist, All the Parts, Obama Deceptions, Rich Man's Tricks, you name it. I watched everything I could find because I had the time. Right? They could never fight the truth, so they slander and call names. Truly disgusting. But the thing is, it's like a calling card, and they're too stupid to realize it, right? So for those in the know, like if you don't know me and you never seen my shit before, but you're in the world and you happen to come to the page and you start looking at the comment section, it's going to trigger that thing to make you go, wait, what's this guy doing that they don't argue, that they're doing the thing to him? Nobody argues the point being made. They say stupid shit. Like, look at how these goofballs keep trying to bring up submarines. I've told you, if you want to do it, just go look. Just go look. Do me a favor and debunk it. I literally, what do I have to gain by submarines not being real? Where's my benefit to that? Especially considering, look at the response. Look at how crazy it is. And because people can't, argue against what I'm saying, they can't make points against what I'm saying, they do this dumb shit. Oh, my grandpa, my uncle, sure, it seems to be how it always is. We had one dumbass on here yesterday talking about, I'm in San Diego and I have access to blah, 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 blah. Like, oh, really? You're going to out yourself and your position like a true military person because some crazy guy on YouTube doesn't believe in the shit? And after fighting for so long, I don't know what I'm doing. THERE doing. Yeah, you're a Trumpanzee. You agree with whatever he says. Right? You're stupid. You've already proven that. If you are at the point where you still fall for Trump and you don't understand what you're being presented with Trump, like you need to watch other movies, I guess. You need to find other feeds because you just don't know what you're talking about. And it's really incredible that people can be so willingly stupid, that they keep falling for Trump. Trump is nothing. He's nothing. He's just a figurehead. He's just an actor who reads what he's supposed to read and plays the role he's supposed to play. Makes promises he's supposed to make promises and not keep. Oh, lower the gas prices and the food prices. I could end all the wars with one phone call. Pushing in and pulling out Netanyahu's chair for him. That makes sense, doesn't it? And you always have to pay attention to the fact that, like, you know, if you pop on this feed and you spend, like, it's funny that anybody would comment before sitting here for at least a minute or two to see what's going on. But if you're here for a minute or two, you realize that this conversation isn't about submarines, and this is about, you know, Trump and bad guy land and the genocide taking place and the slavery. There's all kinds of things this is about. That you would come in here and realize what this thing is about, but not be able to converse on it, not be able to, you know, to make the comments. Like I say, all they do is validate what we're saying. You know, they can't actually come out and be like, yeah, we're the secret system and we're trying to fuck with you because we don't want you to get the voice because, you know, you scare us and blah, blah. They can't do all that. So you have to read between the lines. You have to look at what they present you. I don't like what you say or do. I disagree. So I'm going to watch you for hours on end, day after day after day, saying dumb shit to try to get your attention instead of actually addressing anything you're saying. How would that make sense? Yeah. See, look at again. Look at the dumbass comments. So the fact that a Nigerian housewife chopping vegetables has 6.4K views, that's not evidence of censorship. And I only have 44. That's not evidence of censorship. That's just evidence that that proves that subs are real. This is what they like. He can't provide any actual proof. So he's going to come up with these real stretches. Like for me, when I attack something, I look at exactly what we're supposed to know. I look at the information that's given to us and whether or not it makes sense. And I debunk it as it's presented. I don't have to come up with crazy shit. I don't have to make anything up. You know, I don't have to, you know, exaggerate or anything like that. Just look at what they tell you. When it comes to submarines, it's a great example. But this is, you know, my video not having as many views as a Nigerian woman doing something stupid, chopping vegetables and keeping the goyim stupid, that's allowed to have more views. That proves submarines, blah, blah. Like, that's how stupid, that's how desperate they are. And then they love to stroke each other afterward. Oh, that was funny. Ooh. Like, if I was on that side and dumbass said that, I'd go, oh, shit, that was stupid. You just set him up. And then to hear my slam dunk response, damn it, dude, don't stop saying stupid things. But not them. They love stroking each other. Oh, that was a good one. Oh, you said something good there. And this is where, again, so I've been in this for such a long time. Like, I know the responses I'm going to get. I'm still waiting to hear your evidence about... Right. Again, he's still waiting. So he's been here numerous times and heard me say, go watch the first 9 parts. Go watch the video that's actually about that, where I proudly debunk it. Accidentally, really, but... Go watch that, and they won't do that. They want this video to go into that. So don't talk about Billy Carson. Don't talk about bad guy land and the genocide and all of that stuff. Make the same points you've made in previous videos about something that absolutely doesn't really matter in the big picture of things. My belief in submarines should not outweigh your concern for the genocide that's taking place, or for the pedophilia, or the slavery, or any of that shit. What I think about submarines really doesn't matter in the long run, especially since I'm not sitting here consistently talking about it. So it's not like it matters, but it sure seems to motivate people. Those same people who aren't motivated to denounce pedophilia, who aren't motivated to denounce genocide, but they want to definitely, no. Submarines are real. You know how you know subs aren't real? I'll give you one argument. So I weigh about 200 pounds. If I go into the water and I try to sit on the bottom of the water, the ocean, the beach, the pool, whatever, that much air keeps my 200-pound body floating. That's a small little portion of my body. You know, it's what 1-2% of my body at that point is air. And the only way I can sink to the bottom is by going and pushing out all of my air. Which means I don't get to sit very long. But you think something the size of 80 school buses full of pressurized air can just sink all through the water like that. Isn't that interesting how that works? Is enough air to keep your body floating. But this is, this is the dumb shit. Like this is one of those things where, just like me saying, go check out the previous videos, they're not going to hear what's said. They only hear what they want to hear. And so I was thinking about it because I've seen now a couple of different videos where somebody is talking about how Billy Carson has returned and he is now different. He's obviously different. He's talking about crypto and all this other bullshit. I haven't even bothered looking at it because from the beginning, I was skeptical of Billy Carson. Maybe it was a year ago or so, maybe a little bit longer, but Billy Carson came out of nowhere. Suddenly, he's in every, Tartaria or truther video that just pops up on my IG or my Facebook. It's just Billy Carson, Billy Carson, Billy Carson. And I openly questioned it, like, where the fuck is this guy coming from? And you see it so often in this truther realm that these people pushing certain narratives are allowed to exist, but they don't talk about, bad guy land. They don't talk about the genocide. They don't talk about that kind of dumb, that kind of shit. They love talking about, spiritual this and we are that and this is how they made this and all that shit. And it's interesting because, that stuff is all harmless in reality. The system isn't going to be broken by people questioning the shit that Billy Carson talks about. Sure, it's going to maybe set you down the path, but it's a fantastic distraction, and Tartaria is the best distraction, right? They yeah, it's like Trump, right? Trump is another fantastic distraction. He plays the role to a T. He's dumb as fuck. He's ugly. He's off-putting. He's really stupid. He reminds me of George Bush Jr. stupid. We haven't seen this kind of stupid in a while. But he's George Bush Jr. stupid. I mean, Biden stumbled and stammered over things, but he could at least answer questions. Trump can't answer questions. Trump's just an idiot. Like, it's really embarrassing. And if I was a Trump supporter, I'd be embarrassed by the guy. I'd be like, man, I'm giving you support and this is the best you can do. Like, it's terrible. But when you talk to the Trump supporters, they're the same way. You ask Trump supporters, why do they support Trump? What good has he done to warrant your loyalty? And they have nothing to say. They don't know shit. They're stupid. You ask bad guy land supporters, why do you support bad guy land? Don't you see the genocide happening? And they'll say dumb shit like, they have the right to their holy land. The Bible, because the Bible says so. Kind of stupid shit like that. And the Bible is just, the thing too is 95% of the Christians I've ever come in contact with, they don't know shit. They don't know their own shit to save their fucking lives. You ask them, like, they want to fight about stuff, but then when you start, so I had this one, I was at a friend's house one time, not a friend, a guy who buys cards off of me. And because he bought cards off of me, I didn't want to screw things up. Like, we're not friends, so I don't really care. But, people are getting their feelings really easily. And he's this Puerto Rican guy, a couple years older than me, who was on disability and had this caretaker that was there. Like, it was basically his girlfriend, right? She would be there like 40 hours a week. And she would just hang out and smoke pot and, do, like, she did what he wanted her to do. I'm not saying she was bad at her job, but she had a pretty good gig. And so at one point, what did she say? She was talking about something about space. We were all sitting there. And I was like, yeah, well, I don't really believe it. And she's like, so wait, let me get this right. You don't think space is real and you don't believe in God? I was like, I guess you've been paying attention to the things I've said in the past. But yes, and I think it's funny that you believe, that you make that exact argument, right? That you're saying, I don't believe in space and I don't believe in God. Well, as a Christian, you shouldn't believe in God, or I mean in space. And she's like, what are you talking about? And I asked her, so what's the first thing that God does after he turns on the light? And she goes, well, I don't know. I'm not very good at the scriptures part. And I'm like, so you're saying you're not good at the part that proves what you're saying, but you believe it? You believe this thing, but not enough for you to know it. And the dude, same thing with him. He's like, well, yeah, I've read the Bible. It's just been, 30 years since I read it when I was younger. It's like, man, if you would think if like that's the actual truth, that's the way and all that, and you're gonna identify as this thing to the point where you'll bring it up in constant conversation, because the girl brought it up all the time. She would always bring up God stuff. I would think you would at least care enough to read the fucking book that your whole entire bullshit comes from. And so she's getting mad. I'm staying calm, but she's getting mad, and I'm like, so the first thing God does is it builds the firmament. She's like, what is that? And I said, see, you don't even know. Not only do you not know what he did, but you don't even know what it's called. Like, I'm telling you the firmament, and you don't even know what that is. But you're a Christian. You're a good Christian. And so she's this chick who's like, she's a 4 in any circumstances, except when she goes to the redneck bar she goes to in the small town she goes to. She's like an 8 amongst the people that go to the bar. And so she's really used to being like, I can't imagine how she treats her husband, because she's used to guys sort of wanting to sleep with her, so they put up with her bullshit. She thinks she can talk to anybody like they're her boyfriend or her husband, and it's just weird. It's weird to when you run into broads like that. Good morning. And so I I point this out, and I'm like, you think you could just start talking and you're just being nasty and you're doing all these things because and she's just getting madder and madder. Eventually she goes out, she's like, I gotta get out of here. She goes out front to have a cigarette. And I'm talking to the dude and I'm like, listen, man, I'm sorry, you know, I avoid these conversations on purpose because goofy Christians always get upset, and especially, you know, dumb girls like that. And so him and I are talking, and she comes storming in, and she sits down, and she's like looking, and she's just bouncing, and she interrupts what we're saying, and I say, hey, wait, stop. We're actually talking about something. So I don't mind addressing what you're saying, but you left the room and now you're back here. Can you at least wait till we're done talking about this thing before we have to talk about your thing? She's, oh my God, whatever. And she's sitting there. And so talking for another like 10, 15 seconds, 20 seconds. And she like raises her hand. I'm like, all right, fine. What do you want? And she goes something about the ferment. You know, you talk about the ferment, and that's just blah, blah. And she's saying this shit. And I'm like, look, it's not my thing. That's your belief structure. I'm sorry that your belief structure says there's an indestructible dome over the flat earth. But, you know, don't be mad at me about it. And she's like, you just make up words, and you just want to feel superior to everybody. And I'm like, I didn't make up that word. That word is the Bible word. I'm sorry you're getting firmament wrong. But like, this isn't, like, if you're so confident in what you're saying and your beliefs, why are you getting so upset? I'm not upset. I'm not yelling. I'm not flipping out. You're mad and you're stumbling over yourself, and you're stupid. You know, you're stupid. You're stupid on purpose. They have you stupid on purpose. They want you to be stupid so that you don't, you know, you don't question things. You're much easier to control when you're stupid. That word is not found in Scripture. Yeah, the firmament isn't found in Scripture. Gotcha. That's not the first thing God does. You see how stupid these people are? Like, if I was a Christian at this point, I'd be like, oh God, why do they say stupid shit? So you believe in the firmament, but not God? Did I say I believe in the firmament? See, this is, again, it's interesting, and I you know, if you're watching this, at the very least, take this with you. Notice how people will make arguments, make up their own thing when they can't argue what you're saying. Right? The firmament is just what your stupid ass book calls it. But it's just one example of people talking about the dome, the indestructible dome that covers the earth. But the dumbass who can't actually argue what I'm saying is good. So you believe in God and not the firmament? Or you believe in firmament, not God? Like, it's just stupid. But they always, this is, you'll see this over and over again. If they attempt to engage in the conversation, they'll say things I don't say and then argue them, because that's what works for them. Oh my God, look at all this. Jesus is the word. And this is the thing, like, Jesus is the creator of all things seen and unseen. That's not how that works. Jesus wasn't the creator. God was the creator. But like, these are like, they'll do these long paragraphs and they'll say this bullshit, but this he can't argue past this surface level shit. You know, he doesn't understand where his book comes from. He doesn't understand the history behind the cult. He's one of these people that identifies as second class in his own belief structure. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine if, like, you were taught that Americans are fantastic, we're the best, and if you're here in the States, you're an American, you're second best. You know, because anytime a Canadian comes in, the Canadian's actually better than you. But for the most part, you guys are the best. Like that's, you know, the Christians have been tricked into believing that within their own belief structure, they are not the chosen people. And as I always ask them, if you're not chosen, then what are you? If you know your Bible, then you know that you're a slave. If you're not one of the chosen, you're a slave. But you guys don't, you know, we're gonna get into some shit where I'm gonna talk about things that aren't just silly pull cord responses. Jesus is the word, and Jesus is the like that's they have that shit. They can regurgitate those kind of nonsense things, but when it comes down to breaking it down and looking at it, you know, from a common sense point of view or an intelligent point of view, they fall apart, right? Oh, that's the devil speaking through you, and anytime it's truth that they can't answer, that turns into the devil. And it's like, there's literally no point in arguing with those kinds of people other than they make up a vast majority of the people. But, you know, the truth prevails. That's why they're here. That's why they're here and they come back day after day. Because truth is sexy. And you're attracted to truth. So, you know, it's like why movies like The Matrix, like Avatar and all those, they're always the #1 movies, even though they completely go against your religious perspective. Because you know that religious perspective is stupid. It's just it's a control scheme. It's moronic. Like it really is. It's as dumb as Trump supporters. You know, like anybody who isn't a chosen that supports, especially this MAGA dumbass, right? Like they don't like you. Bad guy land doesn't like you. You're a goyim. When the Messiah returns, which is soon, then each one of us become a slave. They all get 2,800 slaves each. And you just see that, like, the stupidity that you're going to go with that. Like I say, notice how they're not going to actually engage in what I'm saying. You know, why do you believe in you being second class in your own belief structure? Why are you okay with that? Why do you believe that the bad guys in your Bible, because Satan is barely mentioned in your Bible, the true bad guys, you know, the children of Abraham, that despite being the ones that kill your superhero, which also happens to be your Christian God's only son, only kid, that those people are also your Christian God's favorite people, the chosen people. Why would you believe that? If you do believe that, why don't you convert? Why would you stay the second tier one and not just convert to the big one? You might not, you know, you might not ever truly be accepted, but at least you'll be better off than the rest of the goyim. The Bible mentions it numerous times that the Gentiles are a separate group. They're not part of the main cast in the Bible. The main cast is all bad guy-ish. I mean, this isn't like an argument. Like, there's nothing you can say to the contrary. And if you do try to say things to the contrary, you just show your lack of actual knowledge about the thing that you say you believe in. And Billy Carson was one of those guys who sort of pushed it at the same time. Like, it was really weird. He sort of denounced religion, but he still pushed the God concept and all these other things. And it's like, well, and you're still pushing it. Just because you call it something different doesn't mean it's, you know, it's not the same bullshit. It's all Bronze Age myths. We're all adults here. Why are you pretending any of this is real? It's shocking, but it's because most people, our lives aren't what we'd want them to be. You know, even the people that are living kind of comfortably, they're still not exactly what you want it to be, and there's been turmoil and strife and all that shit. And so you believe that all of this is worth it, all of the pain and suffering is worth it, because when you die, that's when the party starts and you get to go to heaven. Don't worry, you don't actually have to die and not be here anymore. I know you're arrogant and you think you should live forever, but you get to go up to heaven and live forever, even though you've done everything you can to not go to heaven. Like, everybody talking shit has had sex before they were married. You've had sex for anything other than, you've had sex for non-procreation purposes. You've had sex hoping there was no procreation, taking steps necessary to prevent procreation. So you're going to hell. Like, that's, you believe in a thing that essentially dooms you. You're going to burn in hell for all of eternity because you happen to have sex before you were married. It's just the wildest, dumbest shit ever. It's such a dumb fairy tale bunch of shit. But again, it provides you with this goal that, well, at least when I die, I'm going to go to heaven. My mean old grandfather died, but he's in heaven now looking down on us. Everybody that dies is always in heaven looking down on us. Nobody ever talks about, oh, that asshole went to hell for sure, blah, blah, blah. Every time somebody dies, the funeral is all about how great they were. Yeah, very misconstrued on followers of Christ. Oh, am I? Isn't it funny how people will always take the time to say that shit, but then they don't say what I'm misconstrued on? You see this time and time again. They have the motivation to say the dumb thing, but they don't have anything to say to back it up. Like, I normally just use crackhead as an insult, but that's not actually what's going on here. It's about choices you make now. What's about choices you make now? Life? If you read the Bible, you would know they are asleep in Christ. What the fuck does that mean? Paul greeted God the Father and Jesus Christ, so where's the Holy Spirit if it's a person you don't know the Bible? But you do. You do. You're a Bible expert. Even though you're just saying dumb shit, you're the expert on the Bible, I guess. I love that arrogance, man. That arrogance in thinking you know. You can make mistakes and still be forgiven if you learn how to grow and repent. That's so dumb. A mistake is not doing something that you know you're not supposed to do. That's not a mistake. That's on purpose. You knew your whole life you weren't supposed to have sex before you were married, and you chose to do it repeatedly. You didn't give a shit about the rules while you were living it. The challenges, the thing that you're supposed to prove your worthiness to your all-loving, all-knowing God. Like, your reasoning is just, it's stupid. It's stupid. Not all Christians agree on heaven and hell. We are not all knowing beings like God. Yep, you gotta love it. So with that in mind, then you know that your God literally has like this viewpoint, if not closer, of children being raped by clergy. And it happens a lot. Your God is watching. It's all part of God's plan, apparently. Your God planned this. Oh, wait, the free will. The free will came and took over. What about the child's free will? Who's protecting that? You know? But your God watches as bad guy land is committing genocide right now. Children are dying at an alarming rate, starving to death. And your God's just like, this is a good show. I hope something happens. Yet you believe the devil is constantly interfering with things. The devil is making things happen, but God, the only thing capable of opposing the devil, because, you know, it's like if Magneto showed up, you know, no human is going to best Magneto. Dude has fucking magic powers and shit. What are you talking about? The devil has all sorts of magic powers. How are humans supposed to override that? But see, this is where you just, you know, you always shut down because you can't make any reasonable arguments. Here, oh, look at your typical Trump response, right? You start talking about what, you know, give me some good stuff Trump did. You know, he's best buddies with Epstein. You know, he locked us down for COVID. You know, he covered up the Epstein shit. You know, he lost that first election by 2.7 million votes, and the swamp that he was going to drain put him in anyway. You know, Hillary wasn't put in prison. You know all these things, right? As soon as you start pointing these things out, like, well, what about Biden? Well, what did Biden do? They don't actually make the argument. They just try to change the subject. And this is literally what Trump did throughout the entire debates, the two debates that came out, where he lost both of them. At one point in the first debate with old ass Biden, who was old and tired and stumbling and stammering and shit, they asked, Mr. Trump, what are you going to do about the fentanyl problem? Well, Biden. Okay, Mr. Trump, yes, but what about the problem with the fentanyl? What are we going to do about it? Oh, well, yeah, well, Biden, the borders and Biden borders. And they're like, okay, Mr. Trump, we get it. But what exactly are you planning on doing about the tremendous fentanyl problem? Okay, yes, you're right. I need to answer that question. But let me first just say Biden. That's all he did. And it was just the made up sort of nonsense. The borders, they're coming across the borders. They're killing cats and dogs. Just crazy kind of shit. Right? And you know, his supporters mirror him. They don't have any sort of reasonable anything. And when you think about it, the Christians, it's kind of the same way. At the end of the day, your God literally does nothing. Your comically powerless God does nothing except help, you know, people run faster than the other people, or catch a ball at the end of the game, or hit a home run or something like that. Then God is everything's for God and blah blah blah. But there's never been a story in the history of Goddom that a cop is driving down the road just on normal patrol in a neighborhood, suddenly slams on the brakes because Jesus, God, appears to him in the passenger seat and says, see that house right there? There's human trafficking going on in that house. I know you don't have the warrant, but go kick in that door and save the children. And they stop the car, kick in the door, and save a bunch of kids. It's never happened in the history of all Jesus and all the good stuff that happens and blah, blah, blah. Not one time has God thought to rescue a bunch of children from a pedophile situation. But he makes you run faster. I ran faster than the other people because I must have prayed harder than the other people did. First of all glory be to God. Without him, none of this is possible. So stupid. But that's, you know, at the end of the day, like, if your God is real, fucking pray to him. Have him inspire you in a way that you can actually answer questions in a reasonable way. You can actually come up with things that make sense instead of the standard dumb nonsense. And I guarantee you won't get anywhere. Just like all you believers, if all you believers just decided you were no longer going to go to work, you were no longer going to pay your bills, you were no longer going to buy food, you were just going to sit in your house and pray to God for your sustenance, you'd die. You know, at first, people might hear about your little story, and because they want it to be true so bad that they'll cheat by bringing you the food and being like, well, God inspired me to bring it to you. But after a little while, people are going to get pissed that you're so lazy and not doing anything, and you won't get food anymore. See? Look at this shit. Everything you can do to try to, like, stop the conversation. Well, what are you doing to help these things? Well, clearly I'm doing a feed that obviously bothers the shit out of a lot of people. You know? I'm doing a feed that is clearly dangerous. And you know, what do you think grassroots is? This is modern day grassroots. This is how any sort of anything has ever happened. Somebody starts talking about things and people start finding that, hey, they might agree. You know, the narrative we're given doesn't quite make sense, and this guy's making sense of things, at least in some cases. But what am I supposed to do? Well, am I going to get my machine guns and my grenades and hop a flight to Palestine and go take out Netanyahu? That's what I'm supposed to do? The only way any of these problems get fixed, because they're all fall under the same umbrella, is if we Goyim unite and overthrow the chosen masters who decide and choose what narratives we believe. That's literally it. That's all we can ever do. But this is, instead of actually sort of debunking what I'm saying, these guys are dumb enough to prove what I say. Like, so every other video, huh? So you're watching that many of my videos and you're just repeating the same dumb nonsense while not actually addressing anything that's being said. I mean, it's wild. He certainly wants us to. Yeah, God wants us to work, huh? How could you have such dumbass thoughts? We have the means, the technology, and the resources for everybody in this world to live a pretty decent life without anyone having to work. There'll still be people that like to work. There's nothing wrong with that. But machines can do most of the things better than we can. We should be having machines make all of our lives much easier. Who decided that 40 hours was the magic number that everybody's just capable of working? There are plenty of people whose bodies can't handle that, whose minds can't handle that. And that's if they just want to live the most basic existence. But I mean, if you honestly believe in the Bible, then Jesus was the biggest socialist of all time. Everybody should be equal and living together, and you know, why wouldn't we do that? Why wouldn't we have machines doing the majority of the work? Well, because people have to be slaves. And if you're working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, you're absolutely spent. You're tapped. You don't have the energy and the, you know, the drive to be the revolution needed. You're exhausted. Plus you have so much to lose, and you know, it works the way it is. You see these, look at these dumbass comments. How come people don't just come in here and address what I'm saying that's wrong? Why do they just say, like, dumbass, pay attention to me kind of shit that ends up making them look stupid? Do you believe in country borders? Do I believe they exist? Yes. Do I believe in them like the way that you're trying to set up? I mean, all of you white people, if you have such an issue with immigration and shit like that, you need to get the fuck out. Just because your parents had sex here and your grandpa had your grandmother bent over that dinner table. How you like it, Gertie? You like that, Gertrude? And she's like, oh, Marvin. Oh, Harold, give it to me. A lot of you think your grandfather's your grandfather, and he's probably not. Because, especially if your grandmother's from pre-40s or pre-50s, those people were having all kinds of sex. They used to go to Makeout Mountain. You think they would drive up to Makeout Mountain in a fucking queen-size bed on wheels so they could just play tonsil hockey for a few hours? No. Why do you think VD clinics were everywhere? Why do you think so many people were, got married at such a young age? Because they were fucking like crazy. There's a really good chance your grandfather isn't really your grandfather. Was no Maury back then. The world is a test. Do your best. Work, weak, and orphan. What the fuck is this? It's just stupid. I was a Republican for life until I found out Omar, Tlaib, and Cortez have the seal of awesome. Why would anybody fall for AOC, for the squad? Why would you fall for that? Of course, the squad is women. So it's immediately second-class citizens, right? They're immediately not taken nearly as seriously. But these chicks only say what they're allowed to say. Tlaib, to some degree, is kind of like the forerunner because she's Palestinian. But these women do what they need to do to maintain their positions. They don't say everything they need to say. Everybody in the world should be, especially all the politicians, especially the Democratic politicians, should be calling out the fact that Elon said that Trump was on the list, and that's why the list wasn't made public. And here we are a couple weeks later bombing Iran. Like, what's his name? Oh, fuck. Obama versus, what the fuck was his name? Oh, why can't I think of his name? The guy with the goiter face. Obama's opponent. All these names are flooding in my head, but none of them are the right one. But when he was singing bomb, 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 Iran, remember that? Funny how it's come full circle, hasn't it? It wasn't Ron Paul. Ron Paul is another example of it, though. They know that they can't, not everybody is going to fall for the Trump side of things or the Biden side of things. So they have to give us a Ron Paul every once in a while. They have to give us a Joe Rogan. They have to give us somebody that's saying the right things in at least somewhat. So we can say, look, see, somebody's actually talking about it. McCain, that's who it was, McCain. Video of him singing bomb, 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 Iran. I mean, it's all just theater bullshit, man. If you believe in the government at this point, I don't know how to get past that. I mean, I wrote the song Patriotism in like 2004, maybe 2005. It was right after there was an incident where Bush was getting off of the Air Force One, and the Marine that's always there to salute him refused to salute him. And it made national news. It was this big story. And I remember thinking, like, the song Patriotism is basically like, we voted as a society, we're one. And we don't want to look weak to the other country. So even though you might not have voted for Bush, he's our president. And we have to show unity as a country because, you know, those bad guy brown people, Arabs, are trying to get us. And that was the gist of it. Like it was patriotism. It's funny that I called it patriotism because that's exactly what it was. Blind patriotism, falling for this America bullshit idea. When it's just fake. It's all fake nonsense theater. You know, I fell for the 9/11 shit for years. But I also know that, like, when it came to 9/11, what really started me on the truther journey, it had to be like 2003 or 4. Good morning. How are you? Good. Thank you.
Got it.
There we go. Thank you. Fuck, what was I saying? Something about... I don't remember. It's gone. Oh, I love the USA. I'm sure you do. You're white. You're one of the white invaders who benefited the most from the invasion, and then wants to deny that privilege exists. But the whole idea of like borders and shit, this is all just nonsense we accept. Civic pride and racial pride are the dumbest things to waste energy on. I do understand why there is so much black pride, brown pride shit, because, you know, based on direction by the chosen, white people did everything they could to subjugate and delegitimize people of color. You know, they were told not to have pride in themselves and you know, told not to stand up and believe that we can do things and we're equal and all that. White people spent decades doing that. So the response is going to be the brown pride, you know, black pride shit. But that's just been weaponized at the same time. Right? I love, we have this troll that comes in here every day that like claims to be the biggest Christian, doesn't know shit about it, and believes the earth is round and flying through space despite what the Bible says. It's pretty fucking silly. But that's what every Christian does. They believe what they want to believe so they can get themselves to heaven. They're not out there like, can you imagine the response if Christians all over the country said, look, until you guys arrest all these pedos and protect the children, we're no longer going to go to church and give our money everywhere. Because God doesn't answer prayers, remember that. God answers tithing. But until you guys fix that, no more tithing for you. How long do you think it would take before people started getting arrested? Pretty quick, wouldn't it? But the Christians won't do it. Oh, okay, here we've got a Bible verse. Let's see. Isaiah 40:22. Ooh, I can't wait. I can't wait. So I'm going to read this and weep. Every time I'm told about some sort of Bible bullshit, it makes me laugh. Every situation, every experience I've ever had with the church, with the Bible, it's always pushed me further away. Isaiah, it's spelled that way. Isaiah 40:22. Let's read this bullshit. It says, oh wait, let's go KJV. We gotta go KJV because that's the good one. Right? We gotta go with the KJV. It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth, and the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers, that stretcheth out the heavens as a curtain, and spreadeth them out as a tent to dwell in. Yeah, nothing about that says a round ball flying through space. It's a circular. Well, you could make a circle easily just by going on any flat surface. If I go from here to here, that's going in a circle. That's not spherical, that's circular, right? That's a circle. If you start in New York and you go around all the continents and come back on the California side, that's still making a circle. How come Jesus didn't come down and be like, hey, I know you guys think that the sun and all the stars revolve around you and, blah, blah, blah. It's actually not true. You're actually on a big ball flying through space, and you're just one of many, many balls flying through space around many, many stars. And the earth actually goes around the sun, not the other way around. Why didn't Jesus say that shit? That's more of the flat earth people confuse a circle and a sphere. I mean, they do it when they want to. They're not stupid. Look at that. Oh yeah, that makes so much sense there. I guess he made a wrong turn, huh? Guess it was a wrong turn. Where did that one even come from? Wow. Oh, look. Another one of these profiles says the same exact, take your meds. I need meds because I don't believe in Sky Daddy. I don't believe there's a guy up there who controls everything, and he's the opposite of the guy that's down below who controls everything bad. Look at that shit. That sure is interesting. Huh. Nothing to see here. Don't worry about it. You can see the sphere on the moon. Just zoom in. Yeah, you can see the sphere. Sure. You can see the sphere. Because, it's not like the same fucking... So you believe that the earth is spinning at 1,000 miles per hour, going around the sun at 67,000 miles per hour. Well, you don't believe these things because you don't actually know these things. You just know the basic part. But the face of the moon is always the same because it just happens to be rotating at the exact speed necessary that there's literally not a single deviation as to, why, as to the face that we see. It's the exact same face. It just happens to be spinning at the exact speed that there's never any change in the moon face. I mean, it's just stupid. And the thing about the Earth shape argument, I let myself get drawn into it because it's fascinating. But it doesn't matter. Until we Goyim unify and overthrow the chosen bad guys that tell us to believe the earth is a round ball flying through space, we don't know for sure. It's not like we're allowed to go check. You're not allowed to put together an expedition crew and sail down to Antarctica and see for yourself. You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to go explore the North Pole. You're not allowed to go explore the South Pole. It just doesn't matter. Everything that's out there, all of these narratives we're given that get us focused on shit we can't actually know, is there to distract us. As long as you're not worried about the genocide taking place, you're that's what they want. They don't care what you talk about. They don't care what dumb thing you believe in. There's going to be somebody provided to you that has some sort of, position in your eyes, whether it's a Billy Carson or it's a Bill Nye the Science Guy. They have credibility for whatever, because they're on TV. You just assume they wouldn't be on TV if they weren't true. They wouldn't have all these views if they weren't true. And what this one says, I kind of like this thing, because that's what we do. We believe the thing that we like. We don't require evidence or proof of any of it. We just believe what we like. And it's really interesting because I've struggled with the Tartaria thing for a while. Because I believed in Tartaria long before Tartaria became a thing. I just didn't know it was Tartaria. I always had an issue. I got in trouble many times for saying I don't believe slavery existed. I don't believe the Native American genocide. Those stories are stupid. They don't make any sense. And the whole architecture thing, it just, you know, all these churches and castles and shit all over the world that we couldn't build today if we wanted to. And yet the people without the technology that we have were able to build them lots of times within a year or so. And the thing is, you didn't even know all that shit. You just knew they existed back then. And you just go, well, how did they build it? And the official narrative was always, we don't know. We don't know how they were building those huge churches and castles in the 1100s, 1200s. But they exist, and believe it. And so, you know, the Tartaria argument is a really fascinating argument. And if you do a Tartaria page, you can actually have a pretty decent, like, you'll get the YouTube pay and all that. You'll start to get, you get big enough, then you start getting, you know, Joe Rogan and what's the other guy's name? Fuck. His buddy, the conspiracy guy, Eddie Bravo. You get Eddie Bravo to mention you. You know, Eddie Bravo mentioned my lunch break, and he was all he should be happy. He got mentioned by the system, right? You'll be allowed to do all that good stuff. You know, nobody's ever gonna block your feed. If you go look at the Tartaria pages, they're not fucking riddled with these same stupid ass trolls. They're not riddled with trolls desperately trying to get the person to talk about something else or tell them not to talk. I'm going to come watch you every day to tell you not to do your feed. And that makes so much sense. But if you want to, you know, you want some attention, make a Tartaria page. It's fascinating. And Tartaria is one of those things that has like instant gratification 99% of the time, right? Any of the old buildings you happen to stumble across, you go, I wonder what the history is on this. And you go look it up and you'll find that this version of the building was built after a big fire. It took a year to build it. It was, you know, nobody knows the construction company. Nobody knows, you know, no construction photos, blah, 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 all that shit. And you're going to get that, I was right. You're going to get that feeling every time. I knew it. I was right. And I remember when Tartaria really started to take off. This was shortly after COVID. And you just started seeing more and more videos. And I stumbled across Mind Unveiled. Mind Unveiled is a fantastic channel. Just a fantastic channel. At least they used to be. They've gone real fantasy in the last, you know, handful of videos, but you know, you see these videos that are allowed to get insane views, and yeah, there is shit talk, but nothing like what I get. Told you. All right, is that the resend? But you see this, like, you see this thing with Tartaria where you're allowed to do it. There's no resistance to you talking about Tartaria. There's no resistance, you know, to you falling for one side or the other of the government, or, you know, whatever. There's only one group of people we're just not allowed to talk about. But I have to edit how I speak to protect myself, because if you know, it's the one group where if you say what they're actually called, if they decide that you said it in the wrong tone, it becomes a slur. And it's the one group that you're told You're not allowed to say they have all the money, the power, and the control. Like, again, those are slurs. It's a slur to say that you have a lot of money, a lot of power, and a lot of control. Do you realize how stupid that is? Of course someone like you is going to pray, I find Christ. They want us to believe in that shit. They would much rather you be a Christian than convert to their thing. That's for damn sure. They're the only ones that are like that too. Christians want you to be a Christian. Muslims want you to be a Muslim. The chosen wants you to be a Christian. Why? Because you inherently put them at the top. They are better than you. They are your Christian God's chosen people, and they are better than you are. And, you know, you have to look at that whole thing, that whole idea of it. Why is it that if you talk about certain things, you're allowed to exist in perpetuity? You're allowed to have a very successful feed. But if you talk about this one group, you can't. And I know that I struggled with this because, you know, Tartaria just made a lot of sense to me. And I started talking about it. And I know that at one point on Facebook, the last time my Facebook page was allowed to get decent views was because I had stopped talking about Bad Guy Land and started talking about Tartaria. And it was like I was rewarded. Hey, you're talking about this. We're going to let you have views. And it dawned on me maybe 4 days into it that I was like, geez, I can't believe I have all these views. And it was like, oh yeah, you know what? I sort of stopped talking about Bad Guy Land, didn't I? And as soon as I made that had that realization, the views just were eliminated, and it went away, and that was that. I was punished. And I've been trying to get you guys to talk about this. You know who's another one of these guys that I think is the next Billy Carson? Is Damian Michaels. You guys, Damian Michaels followers? He's been wearing a fucking mail lately. The chain thing like Big Papa Pump used to wear. Scott Steiner. One of those chainmail headdresses. He's wearing that lately in his videos. He's super fascinated with Tartaria and pushing division. Like, if you go look at his comments, it's all angry white people mad because he's talking about, you know, how bad white people have historically been. Your experience is not everyone's experience. Isn't that weird for the Christian to say that? Yet the Christian wants you to believe in one experience as being the truth, even though there's literally no evidence for it. Don't you think that's fucking strange? This group that is allowed to fucking rape children consistently and get away with it does so based on its position that it maintains without having to provide any evidence to prove that what they're saying is true. And they'll say that they do have evidence, but it's kept away from us. You have the evidence to prove your thing is true, but you're going to keep it away from the people. Do you believe Jesus was a real historical figure? Absolutely fucking not. Why would I? Do I believe that God made a virgin pregnant, a married virgin? She was married, but still a virgin. And her husband didn't beat the hell out of her. Hey, I know I won't give it up to you, but I'm pregnant, and it's God's baby. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. This guy's a phony. I'm a phony because I don't believe in the fairy tale. I love this approach. You know, it's easily one of the most childish approaches, but they do it all the fucking time. There's something wrong with me for not believing the thing that has no evidence. I'm saying, do you believe in the physical person was not real, not the story you've been told? The only reason you would believe the physical person existed is because of the story you've been told. I don't think we have an accurate depiction on anything historical. And the problem is, so it's weird because like everything that's 100 years or more, even like 80 years or more, is basically hearsay. But the reality is everything you believe is hearsay. Unless you're experiencing it right in front of you and you get to see it for what it is, you have to trust somebody else's narrative. My kids are in the house. They could be sleeping. I'm assuming they're still sleeping, but they could be awake and just not have come out and said good morning yet. I know they're in there, but I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what their thoughts are at this exact moment. They could tell me that they were woken up by one of the cats flying off the walls and doing a back handspring and all this, and I just have to trust them that it happened. But then later on, I'm telling them, then my cat did this back handspring. It was crazy. But the narrative that we're given clearly doesn't fit. It doesn't make any sense. And this comes from ignorance, right? When you're gonna argue with me, like all of the people that argue the submarine shit, you literally don't know the history of submarines. So for you to argue them is just stupid. But you will. You'll argue it like it makes sense. And one example is one of the first submarines. It's from 1850. And it was one of the first successful submarines. It was capable of going down 150 feet. It could stay down underwater for 3 hours. And even more impressively, it had a hatch on the bottom that you could open up and grab oysters and stuff like that from the bottom of the sea. And that's the narrative that they give us. In 1850, somebody was capable of building a submarine that could submerge itself 150 feet down, while I think it could hold 3 people. And they could breathe for 3 hours underwater and open a hatch. And how did they see? Lights weren't even invented yet. It's not like they could have lit a candle down there, because that's dangerous, right? But when you understand that the historical narrative is that, so it's either that's a complete lie, or we were a fuckload more advanced than we think we were, and something happened. And when you look at just the entire narrative, the River Thames Tunnel, speaking of submarines, because the submarines were invented in the same basic area, blah, blah, blah. The first submarine is actually from 1620, which is something you won't find if you go looking into it. You have to look even harder. It's so strange. But the first submarine was from 1620. A guy named Cornelius Drebbel invented it. This guy should be like how you know who Einstein is, and how you know who Alexander the Great is, and all these other characters that you've been given. Cornelius Drebbel should absolutely be one of them. Columbus and Galileo and all these guys. According to the narrative, Cornelius Drebbel could make it thunder and lightning on command. He built the first submarine in 1620, capable of traveling 30 to 40 feet underwater, 15 people inside. Great distance, 300 meters and shit it could travel, blah, 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 blah. All in the nasty-ass River Thames. And that's the narrative you're given. And it's like seriously, what? You can have all the shit you want to talk about me. You honestly believe that in 1620, a guy built a submarine that the king of the time became the first king to travel underwater. The king rode in this submarine. That's how impressive and safe it was. And the reason the technology didn't take off is because the military of the time didn't see a use in a vehicle that could travel underwater undetected for hours, you know, stay underwater for a long time and travel great distances. They didn't see the advantage to that. That's the narrative we're given. You like, how do you believe that? Especially when you think, like, what in your head, if I say the 1800s, what are you going to think it looks like? Do you automatically assume there's all these huge buildings, skyscrapers, marble and ornate, you know, buildings that are decorated top to bottom with all sorts of carvings and just the remnants are still around today. And you see it everywhere. And you see, like, you know, you don't bother to ask, how do they heat one of those giant skyscrapers? What's the heating mechanism for that? Especially here in the wintertime, like in cold places like Detroit. How would they have, and back then, when these buildings are supposed to have been built, like what? So what magnificent heat system did they use? You know, the just little basic questions. How did they fucking get all those materials to the area? There's a great video on, you know, it's floating around where somebody is talking to the John Cena version of ChatGPT. And they're talking about Old Yankee Stadium and how the claim that Old Yankee Stadium was built in a year. And so the guy is asking questions like, all right, so how much materials were used and how were those materials brought in and blah, 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 blah. And the ChatGPT actually gets frustrated and ends the stadium was built in a year, but he gets it to say that it's impossible for Yankee Stadium to have been built in a year. One of the things that I was reading this yesterday, and I was reading about P yesterday, and one of the things that came up was that Clydesdale horses pee up to like 4.5 gallons of pee every day. And so Clydesdales weren't always used, right? So you can't say that all horses, but if it's not Clydesdale, then it's going to pee 3 gallons. You know, your average horse pees about 3 gallons per day. Shit's like 20, 30 pounds per day. And you're told that during the time when all of this great construction was happening, they didn't have cars, they didn't have vehicles of any sort like that, any real fancy vehicles. Everything was basically done on horseback. And you think about all of the horse shit and piss that had to be just everywhere back in these times. There's actually a sort of a historical hiccup, I guess, called the horseshit crisis of New York. And they estimated that it would take 275 modern day dump trucks to remove all of the shit from the horse, just the horse shit alone from New York at the time. 275 modern day garbage trucks every day would be needed to remove all of that horse shit every day. And it's like, you're a common sense person. You understand that, like, horses piss and shit a ton. They require a ton of water every day. So you see all these fancy pictures from you know, the early 1900s, late 1800s, where people are dressed like it's cold outside no matter what. Even if the background shows green trees and shit. Doesn't show snow on the ground. Always, even when they went to the beach back then, they were dressed like it's cold. And people say, oh, that's modesty. What kind of modesty overrides common sense? If it's 95 degrees out and you have on, multiple layers, your top hat, your jacket, your button up, your, pants, your socks, your shoe, all these things, you're dying in that heat. But if you look at all these pictures from back in the day, all of these staged pictures, these people in their very best outfits and all that shit, looking all regal and blah blah blah. Not a single person looks like disheveled or struggling. They're all, they got their lace umbrellas and their top hats and their canes, and they're all just walking around riding in their horse-drawn carriages and all that shit. What do you think they did with all the horse shit? How do you think they dealt with it? There's a story of oh fuck, I'm brain farting on names today. One of the richest families in New York at the time, not the Rockefellers, was it the Carnegie? It might have been no, it wasn't the Carnegies. Anyway, one of them. She had this huge home built in downtown New York. And to celebrate the house being built, she had a party that cost $3 million back then. And over 1,000 people attended, and the Davenports, it's one of those fucking families, can't remember the name of which one it is. It's the main one. I just can't think of what the name is. The Vanderbilts? No, it's not the Vanderbilts. Is it the Vanderbilts? Fuck, I don't know. But you just think, okay, so she has a party and over 1,000 people attend. So they come in on their horses. This is the 1883. So there's no cars, there's no vehicles whatsoever. They all came in on horses and stayed for, what parking lot did they have to hold all these horses? Who was supplying all the water for all of those horses while they just waited for the people to get done with their party? Who tended to the horses? Who cleaned up all the shit? Like, there's just so much more to the narrative than we're given. And I think the thing that's so, why the Tartaria stuff is all so successful is because you know it's true. Inherently, you just know it's true. Any of us, anybody on this feed right now could go to the downtown that they live in, and they're going to find a giant church or a building or whatever that they're going to look at, and their immediate thought is going to be, how the fuck did they do this? And then if you look at the date, it'll be from 18 something or, early 19 something, maybe even 17 something, especially when it comes to the churches. And you just look at it and something is telling you that there's just no way that 1700s, what you think of the 1700s, the 1800s, what you think it looked like back then, that those people were able to build that thing. When you look at churches and castles and shit from the supposed 1300s forts and especially star forts cities even, that it's the narrative you're given just isn't right. You know it. You look at that and go, there's no fucking way we could even do that today. So how did they do that back then? The pyramids are the best example of it, because they want you to believe that somehow, some sort of dragging technique, they were able to build the pyramids. And they say the pyramids were built in roughly, the big pyramid was built in roughly 20 years. And they've done the math, like how many bricks it would be like this constant, 10 bricks per minute or some shit would have to be set and carved and traveled and all that shit. It just doesn't make sense. But it goes so much deeper than that. Because if you even look at, like, people will say things like, look at the road. I had a guy say it to me the other day an old guy said, I can't believe that our roads are so bad when ancient Roman roads still exist. And that's a fucking amazing point. But you never ever stop to think like, well, who was making all the bricks back then? The brick factories, where were they? How were they transporting them? If you look up the narrative of the Thames Tunnel, the River Thames Tunnel, it's the first tunnel that goes underneath a waterway. It was built in the 1840s through the 1860s or something like that. And they talk about how they had this setup that used 15,000 or 30,000 bricks or something like that. I'm sorry, I don't remember all of the details. But you just think, okay, so where did the 30,000 bricks come from? How did they transport 30,000 bricks? I mean, at least with the Thames Tunnel, you could say that they used a waterway. But then if you go look at like the oldest brick structure in the world is this temple in India, I believe. I don't know. But you look at the oldest brick structures and shit, and they're from thousands of years ago. And they're made of thousands and thousands of bricks. Who was doing that? Look at, I haven't yet done a deep dive into step wells yet. I need to remember to do that from the beginning next time. But step wells, when you look at the construction, the precision that step wells have in India and whatnot, these are basically reverse pyramids. They're pyramids in the ground. You can't convince me that we could do that today. There's one that has this X pattern of steps that's huge. And it has this precise geometry that it doesn't make any sense as far as what we're told. Obviously somebody built it. Obviously it's possible for it to be built, but not the way we've been told. And, I'm mad at myself right now because every time I do this, I think about it. Like I'm sitting here talking about something with a bunch of fucking stupid asses, no doubt about it. Stupid people who can't address, they can't even begin to engage in this because they don't know. They don't know the first fucking tunnel built under the waterway and the story behind it. They never looked into that shit. So to think that they could have anything to say in this conversation is foolish. But instead of either sitting back and writing down stuff, gaining ammunition, so then you can go look these things up. You could either do it in real time or you could do it after the fact and then come back, because you're going to be back. No doubt you're going to be back. But you could come back with more evidence, more ammunition against what I'm saying, because you looked it up and you figured it out. But like I say, I'm sitting here and I'm talking about all of these things with really stupid, inept trolls desperately trying to gain attention instead of talking about the genocide. And the reality is, there are enough people talking about Tartaria. There are enough people talking about... Well, I've never actually heard anybody talk about the River Thames Tunnel and, a lot of the things that I looked into. And that was on purpose. I would look up things that I knew I hadn't seen before, hadn't looked into, or nobody else had, so I got a fresh perspective of it. I'm actually surprised nobody's ever done well, at least I haven't seen it, the deep dive into bricks, where all the bricks came from. It's just fascinating when you look at the process and whatnot, and to think that You know, the bullshit that they tell us, just how that they were supposedly doing it. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make sense. But there's enough people talking about all these things. There's just not enough people talking about the genocide. And nowadays, there's a lot more people talking about the genocide than when it was the upcoming genocide. You know, a lot of you are paying attention to this narrative since the October 7th false flag, where no bad guys were killed or taken hostage, despite the narrative you've been told. But the whole point in talking about the other stuff is to show you that they've lied to you about so many different things. Why do you think you're getting the truth from those same liars about this really horrendous situation? Why would Netanyahu be telling the truth about anything? Especially when it's just so obvious he's not. Like, there are so many videos that exist exposing the Netanyahu lies and all that shit. There's not many videos that exist that put him in a good light, that validate the shit he's saying. But I did see today, it was last night, a colored friend of mine on Facebook. Obviously, I don't know the guy. But he posted this meme that was like, Obama did this, Hillary Clinton did this, Joe Biden did this. How can you say that this war that we're in right now is Trump's fault? What? What? You Trumpanzees, like, you're so delusional that now suddenly Trump is going against his own will? Like, this isn't all Trump's doing? They leave out the Abraham Accords, the things that gave bad guy land the incredible power that they have right now, and the security blanket. That's the most important thing. The reason why Iran didn't do anything until Iran got attacked, the reason why Saudi Arabia isn't doing any, well, everybody but Saudi Arabia, actually, because Saudi Arabia was the only one that didn't sign the normalization deal, Abraham Accords, and they did it because they said it had to do with the Palestinians, right? Like the way that the Palestinians are being treated and have been treated, they didn't want any association with bad guy land because of it. So the one thing I was wrong about when it came to 2023, the whole false flag narrative, was that I actually thought Saudi Arabia would get involved because of all the rhetoric that they supposedly said, because they turned down being given a nuclear program by the United States just so they would play nice with bad guy land. But if any of you are wondering why the Muslim countries aren't coming to the defense of the Palestinians, it's because of the first Trump presidency. And it's something that most of you didn't know that Trump was doing. You didn't know Trump was working out deals, middlemanning deals between bad guy land and Bahrain and Morocco and Qatar and all these other places where these normalization deals were signed. And not only do we give bad guy land $3.8 billion every year, lump sum, one cash payment to them every year as a base, and then all the grants and stuff that are put aside, so when bad guy land buys $16 million worth of missiles from us, they don't actually pay for it. We do. It's more of the grants that pay for it. But on top of all that, we're constantly paying for these Abraham Accord normalization deals that all of these other countries signed, so that essentially it was supposed to work out that the bad guys could travel to that country, maybe visa-free, because we put them in the visa waiver program September 30th. 7 days before the false flag, Bad Guy Land was forced into the visa waiver program, even though they refused to meet the stipulations necessary, and said they weren't going to. But they were put in it with the promise that by Passover of the next year, by the start or the end of Passover, can't remember which one it was, I think it's the start, that they would have rectified the issue and met the requirements necessary. 7 days later, they did the false flag, so that whole thing's been forgotten about. But not only do we pay the incredible amounts of money to Bad Guy Land, we pay a bunch of other countries to play nice, to turn a blind eye to what's going on in Bad Guy Land. And you see, all of these countries, when the news covers it, the people are protesting. The people themselves, that are just like us, just different colors and different languages and shit, they can't stand what's going on. And they hate it. But it's the government that's getting paid, or the monarchy that's getting paid by the U.S. government to stay out of it, that keeps everything out of it. And nobody talks about how much money that is. How much money do we pay out with the Abraham Accords every year? And with the Abraham Accords comes the memorandums of understanding. A memorandum of understanding is legal shit, but it's done, in an unofficial capacity, so that there's no transparency. So all the transparency that's required when they're, passing treaties and shit like that, well, they don't have to follow that, because this is called a memorandum of understanding. And it's why we give Bad Guy Land $3.8 billion a year. Because of a memorandum of understanding that's signed every 10 years. The last one was signed by Obama in 2016, but for some reason didn't take effect until 2018, at least. And that one said that they would get $38 billion over a 10-year period, as long as Netanyahu agreed to 2 concessions, one of which being that they wouldn't ask for any more money until this was done, until that 10-year period was up. And 2 was that they wouldn't spend the money on their own weapons. They would buy weapons from us to complete the illusion, so that it doesn't look like the U.S. is just arming Bad Guy Land. They're buying weapons from us. That's how the setup was supposed to be. And that's how it had been all the other times the memorandum of understanding was signed, where they would get, however many billions over the 10-year period. But in 2018, Trump changed things up, and those 2 concessions were gone. And in place of it was that we were going to keep a cache of weapons in Bad Guy Land for emergency purposes that Bad Guy Land had access to anytime they wanted. And we would just keep replenishing it. And the story sort of creeped back up not too long ago when the U.S. was trying to give Ukraine some weapons that were supposed to come out of that cache, but Bad Guy Land wasn't letting them have it, or had already used them or something like that. But these memorandums of understanding, they exist, and they are really sort of a strange thing. And another one of the memorandums of understanding says that Bad Guy Land is to have the greatest military in the region by a qualitative military advantage, a QMA, qualitative or quantitative military advantage. Meaning, there's a formula that's in place that says Bad Guy Land's, Air Force is 75% better than anyone else's. And if anything affects that, where another country lowers that number to 60%, well, it's up to the United States to then provide whatever is necessary to ensure that Bad Guy Land gets back up to 75%. And so one of the normalization deals, the Abraham Accord deals, was with Bahrain. And I don't know the exact number, but let's say Bahrain, it's actually higher, but let's say Bahrain was set to get 20 F-35 fighter jets from us so that they would play nice with bad guy land. Well, because of the memorandum of understanding, we then have to give bad guy land 35 F-35 fighter jets to offset what was given to Bahrain. We have to give bad guy land fighter jets because we gave fighter jets to a different country to play nice with bad guy land. We also have to reward bad guy land in the process. And the people that think that $3.8 billion is military aid, it's not. They can, I mean, military aid or you know, school aid or food aid or whatever, they could call it whatever they want. But it's money. And when it comes to the $3.8 billion a year, we give them $3.8 billion a year, cash, one lump sum every year. We don't have any say in how they spend it, even a little bit. But how much do you think we spend in Abraham Accord deals and normalization deals to keep that protection scheme going that they clearly have right now because nobody's coming to the rescue? You know, Bad Guy Land has been saying for decades that there are 150,000 rockets pointed at Bad Guy Land at all times. All of their neighbors are against them for no reason whatsoever. They're so nice to everybody. They can't figure out why everybody hates them so much. But all of the countries around Bad Guy Land hate Bad Guy Land and blah, blah, blah. Well, not one of them is coming to the defense of the people being victimized the most. In the most inhuman ways, in inhumane ways. Like this is the most heavily broadcast, well-covered genocide of all time. Everybody knows it's happening. They're bragging about it every day, showing us these horrible images on TV, and then because of the internet, it's even worse. We all know this shit's happening. They you know, our roads look like shit. Our infrastructure looks like shit. Our elderly care looks like shit. Our drug programs look like shit. Our pedophile hunter programs are non-existent. Trump has the task force, an official task force to combat anti-Semitism, spelled the old way. Bet you guys didn't know this, but anti-Semitism was originally coined to mean what it says. Now, I know most of you don't understand the word that you're looking at is two words. It's anti, which is against, and then Semitism, which you don't know what Semitism means. And, you know what? Let's show you, shall we? Ugh. So. All right, so we're gonna put Semitism definition into the Google machine. We're gonna go to the Merriam-Webster definition. Okay, it's Merriam-Webster.com. See, right? No trickery here. Number 1A, Semitic character or qualities. Number 1B, a characteristic feature of a Semitic language occurring in another language. Number 2, policy or predisposition favorable to bad guys. You want to see it again? Policy or predisposition favorable to bad guys. See that? See that? How many of you agree that one group should get policy and predisposition favorable to them? Meaning, the rules and regulations, the policies that we all are governed by, and the predisposition, how you look at things before you know the details, before you see it or whatever. Like if you're told you're going to go see Friday the 13th part 25, you have a predisposition that you're going to go see like a horror, scary kind of movie. And if you went and it turned out to be My Little Pony, you'd be like, what the fuck? My predisposition of this wasn't correct. Why should anyone get policy or predisposition favorable to them? Show me the other words. Show me the Christian version, the Muslim version, the black version, the whatever version of that word that exists for other people. Policy or predisposition favorable. So in the 1880s, when the term anti-Supremacism, because that's what it is, supremacy, policy and predisposition, better benefit us, is supremacy. There's no reason for it. They don't give you well, because they've done this or they've done, none of that shit. They just get it. It's really fucking insane. And look at how, like, people will say all kinds. I just showed you the Merriam-Webster definition of it. There is no arguing anything. That's Merriam-Webster. That's who decides what the words mean. It's what it is. But in the 1880s in Germany, a group first rose up to combat the Semitism that was controlling everything, and they opposed it. Why should this group be given so much favor? And eventually it was weaponized, and it was like, how like, I'd say it, but people are looking to get me in trouble. So the N-bombs, how like that whole, it's an MK Ultra bullshit. They've gotten black people to commit crimes at the utterance of a phrase. It's actually really brilliant on their end. I got to give them credit on that. Because, black person flips out, beats up the white person. Now the white person has to go to the J hospital. The bad guy doctors, bad guy hospitals. And then they do some sort of lawsuit. It involves a bad guy lawyer, bad guy judge. While the black guy, he gets to, he gets to go to jail, bad guy owned jail, bad guy lawyers, bad guy judges. And it's all over a word that is like stupid. I mean, it's just why you would ever get upset because somebody is so desperate that they drop an N-bomb. You've run out of shit to say when you start dropping the N-bombs. You're just trying to get the other person upset. So I don't know why anybody would give anyone else that kind of power over them. But it's an MK Ultra thing. It's like these people shut off. The person they are shuts off, and they end up committing a crime that they would never commit in any other circumstances. And when they come out of it, they're like, yeah, but he called me an N-bomb. He called me an N-bomb. And the people are like, yeah, that's a word. You got that upset over it? Of course, when it's a chosen, it's always a hate crime. Anytime anything happens against them, it's always a hate crime. It's interesting how the narrative is manipulated. And you can see it or you don't. It's pretty simple. But it's the, this whole idea of anti-Supremacism, it only exists for them. And how they took over the word, like how they say black people took over the N-bomb to, we put an A on the end, so that makes it okay for us to say it, not you. And it's all just such a stupid fucking manipulation that I can't believe people still fall for. But they did the same thing with anti-Supremacism. They took it over and they made it their own word. And now they anytime you talk about them, they call you that. Like it's a bad thing. Like you're not supposed to be a part of their thing. They don't care if you believe in their thing. All they care about is that you believe they are your God's chosen people and they're better than you. And they require that you give them policy and predisposition that's favorable to them. That's what they want. They don't want you to convert to their thing. They want you to be the thing that believes they get the special treatment, because then you're a slave. And so they took over the word, and it was spelled ANTI-SEMITISM since the 1880s, right? In 2020, it's either 2020 or 2021, I think it's 2021, they just decide, they have hearings for it, that this word, they don't want the Goyim, they don't want us to realize that anti-Supremacism goes against something called Semitism. They didn't want us to know that. So they wanted to change the spelling from ANTI-SEMITISM to ANTI-SEMITISM. And they did. They changed the official spelling, meaning now somebody has to go through all of the documents, all of the records, all of the everything, and make this correction on this word. Remove the hyphen, remove the capital letter, push it together. All this work has to be accomplished to change the spelling of a word. Have any of you ever heard of that? Have any of you ever heard of a word, the spelling of a word being changed to prevent us from thinking a certain way? It doesn't even make sense now. Anti-Semitism as one word. That doesn't even, that's not how it works. That's not a thing. But the Trump task force on combating anti-Semitism is spelled the old way for some strange reason. Because I think the powers that be don't like that Semitism isn't capitalized. Trump doesn't have the task force to combat online pedophilia, online fucking predators and shit. But he has the task force to combat anti-supremacism. And you guys don't think that's fucking weird? Right? You don't think that's weird? It's all right there in front of you. You don't have to, like, the one thing they've done really well is convince people that the conspiracy is this really complicated thing that you probably can't understand. Kind of like the Bible. You know, they programmed you with the Bible to accept an intangible authority, even if it doesn't make sense. So that when you're an adult and you're given tangible authorities, that even when they don't make sense, you've already been programmed to accept what doesn't make sense by an authority. And the Bible is just stupid. It's horrible. It's a horribly written book. It's dumb. Like, so much of it is dumb and contradictory, and it's just really stupid, especially when you know the history behind it. But they have you believe it because of the, you know, without the United States being a Christian nation, this genocide wouldn't be happening. We'd be speaking out. You know, we wouldn't accept this as Goyim. We don't like seeing this shit. Children dying, we don't like that. But because they've tricked you on the highest levels to think that, you know, that those are God's chosen people that are doing this. You don't have a right to say anything against them. You don't have a right to oppose what they are. You know, you don't want to get in trouble, right? You want to go to heaven when you die, right? So you better be quiet. You've already programmed yourself on how to be quiet. You know, still believing in the narrative that's told to you by the system that continuously gets caught raping children. Continuously gets caught. God of the Old Testament is clearly not the same God of the New Testament to me. an all-powerful God wouldn't need to produce a second testament. There you go. That's a pretty obvious thing. Right? Like, it's so stupid. It's so stupid that if you start regurgitating the nonsense, you become stupid. That's the point. If what you believe in is stupid, you're stupid. And it keeps you quiet. And it keeps the Semitism going, because those are your God's chosen people. They demand this special treatment. They look down on you as slaves. Like, it's so crazy to me that people think that the target won't change. You know, when they get big enough and strong enough that they're not going to just target the rest of us. They hate us. We are Goyim. We are Gentile Goyim slaves. That's what we're here for. That's how this is supposed to work. When the Messiah returns, each one of them gets, or when the Messiah shows up, each one of them gets 2,800 Goyim slaves, 2,800 Gentile slaves for every one of them. Why you think it's this isn't my fucking interpretation. It's what they believe. This death cult, this pedophile cult, they're the worst. I mean, look at this. Look at all these comments. Look at how weird they are. Have you watched any of the new research going over half the stuff you've talked about? Why is it you don't just tell me what you're trying to say? If the thing that you watched is so influential and so truthful, then you should just be able to start saying stuff from it. You don't need me to go, just take your word on it, go find this thing that you're not even addressing what it is, but unless you're talking about how we can end this genocide, you're being distracted. None of the rest of the shit matters. Yeah, there's a lot of bad shit going on, but if you want to stop all the other bad shit, if you want the answers to the conspiracies, if you want to stop the pokes, the next round, we're going to get locked down again this winter. It's called Sears this time, SEERS. They're planning on bringing it to us this winter, this fall. If you don't want that to happen, if you're sick of the pedophilia, if you fucking, all this government bullshit, this wars, all this shit, if you really want all this to end, then the Goyim have to unify and overthrow the slave masters that control all of these situations and control our perspective on all of these situations. You want to know the real shape of the earth? We have to stop the genocide. You want to stop the pedophilia? We have to stop the genocide. You want to get rid of this dumbass government we have? We have to stop the genocide. They're the ones that are hanging on by a thread at this point. Because they're stupid. They've always been stupid. I'm telling you, they're stupid. Because they're stupid and they fucked up and gave us the internet all those years back, they can't take it away. And once we got the internet and we realized how similar we all are, and how we're all being victimized by the same group, and how everything you look into, if you go far enough back in it, it's gonna get to them. Freemasonry. You guys want to talk about the Freemasons? We'll look up the history of the Freemasons. Look up the origin of the Freemasons. Christianity comes out of Second Temple Judaism. The Bible is a bad guy-ish story. All of the characters are bad guys, and they referred to the Goyim, to the Gentiles, as separate people multiple times. Multiple times in the Bible, they mention the Gentiles off to the side, like those Gentiles, not us Gentiles, those Gentiles. It's all stupid. At the very least, like, you don't even have an understanding of your Bible. If you're gonna believe in this shit, believe it for what it is. It's a story of something that happened a long time ago. One of the verses that your pastor will always skip over. You'll have a real hard time finding anybody talking about Matthew 24:34. Because Matthew 24:34, Jesus, when asked about Revelations, Jesus says to one of the sheep, "Verily I say unto you, no one of this generation shall die before all of these events come to pass." Nobody of this generation will die, meaning all the people around are going to be alive until every one of those things in Revelations happens. So it's already happened. And the Bible is I compare it to the Princess Bride. You're reading the Bible is you watching the Princess Bride. You're watching some old man tell his grandson or a group of people, whatever, a story that is manifested into this movie. But you're just, instead of watching the movie, you're reading the story that the old man is telling to his kid. The old chosen man. It's again, it's a chosen fairy tale. I mean, I look at these dumb comments, desperate they can't argue, especially the one that's identifying as the dumb American, right? Standard, typical dumb American. Can't argue anything that I'm talking about, so he's just making up stupid shit. Like, if he could get a girlfriend, I couldn't steal her. Come on. Like, I don't have a wife in the house with kids that I made. It's like this desperate. I always say, if somebody's willing to say anything, especially something that's really easy to disprove, like, oh, you're in the middle of a park somewhere, and it's like, no, I'm in a neighborhood, you dumbass. You're in the basement, and I show the view out the window, like stupid shit like that. If they're willing to say dumb shit just to get attention, they have zero credibility. Even if they try saying something credible next time, you know, they try to say something that makes sense. Nobody should believe them because they're fucking stupid. They've already proven they'll say anything. Look at this one. You're, Y-O-U-R, the one that's rambling, well, the subject is the same old bullshit. And he's yelling this time. Yelling because he's got the cap locks on, but not smart enough to use the correct your. Gonna type out a whole fucking little long ass sentence, but not smart enough to use the correct your. And that's, you know, I've ignored a ton of the comments. I just happen to look down at this part and read this comment that comes up. I don't know what the fuck that person's gonna say. And right away you see just how stupid the opposition is. You don't know the right your to use? How old are you? You're probably typing on a phone, and the phone will try to correct it for you. But the phone shouldn't even have to correct it for you because you should know the right one to use. It doesn't take any extra effort. You type in the first two letters and it's going to pop up the options for you. And you pick the wrong one every time. That's how stupid you are. And yet people are supposed to take you seriously? Why would anybody take someone seriously that can't even use the right your in a sentence? Yeah, you must be smarter than me. That's for sure. And of course, it's not someone that's saying, you know, you're Y-O-U-R wrong about this because of this. No, it's just more dumb shit. You're the ones walking around in circles. Never mind that I'm the one watching you do it. You're doing it. Why are you doing something? It's fucking silly, man. I never understand that one, man. I never understand I watch you, but I hate you. Like, I did watch the 700 Club for a long time. And I watched it because I wanted to see what they wanted us to know. And because they would do news stories that you wouldn't see. Like, the only reason I know that Trump signed the legislation first presidency that said that all colleges and universities had to have a pro-Israel curriculum and be actively removing BDS and any other anti-Israel stuff. The only reason I know that he signed that on the Tuesday after Kobe died. Kobe died on Sunday. That's all the news talked about Monday, Tuesday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. On Wednesday, Trump was scheduled, one of his impeachments was scheduled to come to an end. So immediately it went into that. We still talked about Kobe, but then we had, which again, no funeral, no nothing, fucking such a goofy story. But if I wouldn't have been watching the 700 Club at the time, I would have never known about that because no other news station covered it. But I would have given anything to be able to have a direct line to Pat, to Gordon, to Wendy, to any of those fucking clowns, that they could see what I was saying and they would read it and have to, address what I'm saying or choose not to. But if I had that opportunity, I definitely wouldn't have talked about, how goofy Gordon's hair looks or some shit. It looked goofy, but having the opportunity to speak to the person I'm watching about what they're talking about, like, first and foremost, I would ask, like, how do you have the voodoo Jesus power? Where did you learn that? Where did you learn the ability to hear people's plight through the TV screen and then charge God with fixing whatever the ailment is that this person's probably already prayed for a gazillion times, but now you're going to step in and command God, touch that fucking knee and heal that knee. How did you get that power? Where did you learn that? I would love to ask them about that. I've called the 700 Club many, many times and asked them why they support what's going on with Israel, considering, lots of Palestinians are Christians. Why is the 700 Club not actively speaking out against the genocide? Whether it's Christians or not, there's a genocide happening. And the genocide's been happening since long before October 7th. It was just a lot slower. But if I had the opportunity to actually speak to those people, I would totally take advantage. And I would absolutely call them out on what they're wrong about. I wouldn't be like, well, I bet you Gordon has a virgin. Gordon's a virgin. Like, I wouldn't waste my time with that shit. I wouldn't waste my opportunity with that shit. And if it was a situation where I knew other people were going to either see, hear, read whatever it is, I would do my very best to make Gordon, Pat, all those people, I would ask things and say things that put them on the spot so they would look stupid in real time. And yet, never happens here. Never happens here. Why? Other than these, most of these are bot profiles programmed by, dumb bad guys. I mean, really, look at any argument you'll ever see. Any of them. Look at any news interview that you've ever seen where it'll be like the minister of some other, they're always making up positions for themselves. The minister of J Affairs on Tuesdays is having a discussion with any other, pundit, any talking point, any Dan Blazarian or whatever. You know, Piers Morgan tends to have a lot of these multi-head discussions talking about things, and they'll always have like the bad guy land representative will be the center head and just little shit like that. But you know, go look anytime you see any. They never make any reasonable points. The only things they ever say is like they'll call you, you know, they call Piers anti-Semitic because of, you know, he's like, what do you mean I'm anti-supremacism? I've done nothing but say bad guy land has a right to defend itself. It wasn't until I saw what's being done to children that I finally started speaking out, and suddenly I'm anti-supremacism? I want to walk. My fucking body hurts. And every single time, you know, the bad guy representative doesn't sit there and say things that you go, oh, well, you know, I never thought about it that way. The only way they ever address any sort of criticism is to tell somebody that they either can't say that, they're not allowed to say that, or that, well, the Bible says, which is silly. I mean, why do they always use the Bible if it's a Christian book? A Catholic book. Right? Look at this shit. He walked on water, even then some didn't believe he was God. Right, he walked on water. You saw it. You saw it. You would think the guy that was walking on water and shit, performing all these miracles, was, you know, would have been talked about more than he actually was. You know what? I want to look that up, because I looked up one time the story of Jesus making the blind see, and I always thought it was like a televangelist thing where he like waved his hand and a bunch of blind people could see. I didn't realize Jesus is going around Godspeed to all these temples dotted around the area, and he's being harassed and persecuted by, well, the bad guys, and they're talking all this shit about him, and so finally he goes outside one of the temples, and he sees old blind Billy sitting there on the side of the road. And everybody knows old blind Billy. He's a pariah because, you know, he's blind. Ew. So, like, people are mean to him. He's a beggar. He sits there and begs for change. His family lives on the outskirts of towns because they're pariahs, because they had a blind child. Like, it's really weird how it's treated as some sort of, like, they did something wrong. They're like these bad people because they have a blind child. But old blind Billy is sitting there, and he's a town staple. Everybody knows him. And Jesus walks up to him, and Jesus spits into the sand to make a paste. Now we're talking about like the desert sand, right? This is like beach sand almost. Probably drier than beach sand. How much spit do you think it's going to take for someone to make a paste out of the sand? It's pretty gross. Jesus must have been hawking some major loogies to be able to turn that sand into a paste. But he grabs the paste and he wipes the spit paste into old blind Billy's eyes. And then he doesn't say, here's a bucket of water, rinse your face off. He says, okay, you got to go into that river way over there and rinse off. And blind Billy's like, okay. And he makes his way over to the river. And he rinses he goes in and he rinses the fucking, the mud paste out of his fucking eyes. And suddenly you can see, oh my God, I can see. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, you can see, Jesus, miracle, blah, blah, blah. And as always, one of those pesky followers is like, Jesus Christ, that was amazing. Hey, Jesus. Yes, my son. Old blind Billy's family was a pariah. He was a pariah. Like, he lived a really horrible life because he was blind. What did he do, or did his family do, to deserve such a terrible fate? And Jesus is like, oh, oh, that's cap, son. Nah, see, my dad, like, he owns a dealership. He can totally hook you up. My dad knew that one day I would need to perform this miracle at this exact time. So, you know, you couldn't just have some regular blind person just show up. Nobody would believe it. So he had to be blind and live the life he lived and his parents and all that so that I could perform this miracle on this day when I needed to perform it. And everybody's like, oh, that's cool, I guess. Like, talk about a fucking selfish bullshit story. The reason he was blind and lived this horrible life, people spit on him. He had to beg for money, beg for anything. His family was on the outskirts of town and they were fucking awful people and all that. Was so one day Jesus could perform a miracle. That is the dumbest fucking shit. Why anybody would choose to believe such dumb shit is beyond me. So I'm gonna do I want to look this one up. Jesus walks on water. Let's see. All right, so this is Matthew 14, 22, 3. So Matthew 24, 34 is when Jesus says that the revelations will happen before anybody dies. So I don't want the New International. I want the King James Version, motherfuckers. All right. Come on, load it up. Let's do this. Bible Gateway. I don't give my sources. Right. All right. Please keep your mental illness private. Yep, says Saint James Harris Wood. So that's a religious person who's saying it's mental illness to talk about the Bible and read it, because now I'm reading the Bible, but I should keep this private. And straightaway Jesus constrained his disciples to get into a ship and to go before him unto the other side, while he sent the multitudes away. Oh, what's the fucking verse before this? Seems like a weird place to start a story. All right, so let's go. I guess I got to go to Matthew 13. The same day Jesus went out of the house and sat by the seaside, and great multitudes were gathered together unto him, so that he went into a ship and sat, and the whole multitude stood on the shore. So weird. This must be before Jesus deserts everybody because he had to feed them the one time. They never talk about how all these multitudes of people ate. You know, they're walking all over the place using Godspeed super fast. And they don't bother to tell us how everybody ate. And then one day, you know, part of the miracles is that everybody's like, hey, Jesus, we don't have any food. And all we have is these 2 fish and these couple pieces of bread. And Jesus tells the disciples to go ahead and eat the fish and then leave the carcasses in the basket along with whatever bread they don't finish. And it's not that Jesus makes a bunch of fish out of other fish or makes bread out of other bread. It's just that the people somehow eat from the basket. That's it. Where the carcasses and the bread crusts are. That somehow feeds the multitudes of people. And then the next day, they wake up to find that Jesus is gone because he's mad that they needed him to feed them. So he bounced. All right. And he spake many things unto them in parables, saying, behold, a sower, S-O-W-E-R, went forth to sow. Is that sow? A sower went forth to sow. And when he sowed, some seeds fell by the wayside, and the fowls came and devoured them up. Some fell upon stony places where they had not much earth, and forthwith they sprung up, because they had no deepness of earth. And when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprung up and choked them. But other fell into good ground, and brought forth fruit, some an hundredfold, some 60-fold, some 30-fold. Who hath ears, let him hear. And the disciples came and said unto him, Why speakest thou unto them in parables? He answered and said unto them, Because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. What stupid, selfish shit. Oh, they're just the dumb goyim. They don't need to know the truth. I speak to them in riddles to have them confused for centuries. For whosoever hath, to him shall be given. For whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away even that he hath. Jesus is a dick. Those who have the most will get even more, but those who don't have very much will lose everything they have. Ha ha ha. Funny how the Bible thumpers never want to talk about these things. They never quote these lines. The ones that make Jesus sound like a total douchebag. Therefore speak I to them in parables, because they seeing see not. Because they seeing see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand. Maybe it's because you're speaking to them in parables, you dumb fuck. And in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Esaias, which saith, who is Esaias? Why would there be another prophecy about some other guy? By hearing ye shall hear, and shall not understand, and seeing ye shall see, and shall not perceive. For this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest at any time they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and should understand with their heart, and should be converted, and I should heal them. What? But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For verily, there it is, verily I say unto you, that many prophets of righteous men have desired to see those things which ye see, and have not yet seen them, and to hear those things which ye hear, and have not yet heard them. Hear ye therefore the parable of the sower. When any one heareth the word of the kingdom, and understandeth it not, then cometh the wicked one, and catcheth away that which has sown in his heart. This is he which received seed by the wayside. Wow, is that dumb? So your issue is that you don't understand. Jesus speaks in parables because you don't understand, and your fault is that you don't understand, but he's not going to tell you because you don't understand. It's fucking insane. But he that received the seed into stony places, the same he that heareth the word, and anon with joy receiveth it, yet hath he not root in himself, but dureth a while. For when tribulation and persecution ariseth because of the word, by and by he is offended.
He also that received seed among the thorns is he that heareth the word, and the care of this world, and the deceitfulness of riches, choke the word, and he becometh unfruitful. So is this the televangelist then? But he that received the seed into good ground is he that heareth the word and understandeth it, which also beareth fruit, and bringeth forth some an hundredfold, some 60, and some 30. What a dumbass. Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, The kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in his field. But while man slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat, and went his way. And when the blade was sprung up and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also. So the servants of the household came and said unto him, Sir, didst not thou sow good seed in thy field? From whence then hath it tares? Right? Because the servants come talk to their God, their master like that, right? He said unto them, An enemy hath done this. The servant said unto him, Wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? Go kill them. But he said, Nay, lest while ye gather up the tares, ye root up also the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. And in the time of harvest, I will say to the reapers, Gather ye together first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. I mean, this is just so stupid. Another parable put forth unto them, saying, The kingdom of heaven is like to a grain of mustard seed, which a man took and sowed in his field, which indeed is the least of all seeds, but when it is grown, it is the greatest among herbs, and becometh a tree, so that the birds of the air come and lodge in the branches thereof. Another parable spake he unto them, The kingdom of heaven is like unto leaven, which a woman took and hid in 3 measures of meal, till the whole was leavened. All these things spake Jesus unto the multitude in parables, and without a parable spake he not unto them. So he was just confusing as fuck. Because that's fucking funny. That it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophet, saying, I will open my mouth in parables. I will utter things which have been kept secret from the foundation of the world. Then Jesus sent the multitude away, and went into the house, and his disciples came unto him, saying, Declare unto us the parable of the tares of the field. He answered and said unto them, He that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world. The good seed are the children of the kingdom, but the tares are the children of the wicked one. Ooh. The enemy that sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. Oh, those angels just killing. As therefore the tares are gathered and burned in a fire, so shall it be the end of this world. What a motherfucker. The Son of Man shall send forth his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and them which do iniquity, and cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Man, that wailing and gnashing of teeth, that is a very common negative thing. Nobody wants to be gnashing the teeth. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto treasure hid in a field, the which when a man hath found, he hideth, and for joy thereof goeth and selleth all that he hath, and buyeth that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a merchantman seeking pearls. Oh my God, this is so bad. So heaven is one of those things that if you find it, you should keep it to yourself. When he had found one pearl of great price, went and sold all that he had and bought it. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a net was cast into the sea and gathered of every kind, which when it was full, they drew to shore and sat down and gathered the good into vessels, but cast away the bad. Oh, this is insane. So shall it be at the end of the world. The angels shall come forth and sever the wicked from among the just, and shall cast them into the furnace of fire. There will be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Man, that Jesus sure does hate us, huh? Jesus saith unto them, Have ye understood all these things? They say unto him, Yea, Lord. Then said he unto them, Therefore every scribe which has instructed unto the kingdom of heaven is like unto a man that is an householder, which bringeth forth out of his treasure things new and old. And it came to pass that when Jesus had finished these parables, he departed thence. And when he was come into his own country, he taught them in their synagogue. Seems weird, right? Why is he teaching in the synagogue? Insomuch that they were astonished and said, Whence hath this man this wisdom and these mighty works? It's not the carpenter's son. It's not his mother called Mary, and his brethren James and Joses and Simon and Judas. Wow, Jesus had a lot of brothers. I only heard about James. Who's Joses and Simon and Judas? Those are his brethren, right? I am pure evil. Don't want people reading the Bible now, do you? And his sisters, are they not with us? Whence then hath this man all these things? So he had sisters too? And they were offended in him. But Jesus said unto them, A prophet is not without honor, save in his own country and in his own house. And he did not many mighty works there because of their unbelief. So he's like, well, you don't believe in me, so I'm not going to prove it. You're supposed to believe in me. I don't know if this is going to... Alright, let's just try it. At that time, Herod the Tetrarch heard of the fame of Jesus. How? And said unto his servants, This is John the Baptist. He is risen from the dead, and therefore mighty works do shew forth themselves in him. That's fucking goofy. So all these people were like, yeah. For Herod had laid hold on John, and bound him and put him in prison for Herodias' sake, his brother Philip's wife. For John said unto him, it is not lawful for thee to have her. And when he would have put him to death, he feared the multitude, because they counted him as a prophet. Oh, we have another prophet. But when Herod's birthday was kept, the daughter of Herodias danced before them and pleased Herod. And the king was sorry. Nevertheless, for the oath's sake, and them which sat with him at meat, M-E-A-T, at meat, he commanded to be given her. He demanded this bitch. That's my bitch. And he sent and beheaded John in the prison. He wanted his woman so bad. And the king was sorry. Oh, wait. And his head was brought into a charger and given to the damsel, and she brought it to her mother. Ew. What is going on here? And his disciple came and took up the body and buried it, and went and told Jesus. When Jesus heard of it, he departed thence by ship into a desert place apart. And when the people had heard thereof, they followed him on foot out of the cities. What? And Jesus went forth and saw a great multitude, and was moved with compassion toward them, and he healed their sick. Whoa. And when it was evening, his disciples came to him, saying, This is a desert place, and the time is now past. Send the multitude away, that they may go into the villages and buy themselves victuals. What? They had this money that they could just go into villages? Okay. But Jesus said unto them, They need not depart. Give ye them to eat. And they say unto him, We have here but 5 loaves and 2 fishes. Oh, cool. We're going to hear this part. And he said, Bring them hither to me. And he commanded the multitude to sit down on the grass. And he took the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, and looked up to heaven. He blessed and brake, and gave the loaves to his disciples, and the disciples to the multitude. And they did all eat and were filled, and they took up the fragments that remained 12 baskets full. See? And they that had eaten were about 5,000 men, beside women and children. So like 15,000 people, at least. And straightway Jesus constrained his disciples to get into a ship, and to go before him unto the other side, while he sent the multitudes away. All right, I fed you, now get the fuck out of here. And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up into a mountain apart to pray. And when the evening was come, he was there alone. Jesus himself, Mario jumped his way up the mountain to the place where he could pray. But the ship was now in the midst of the sea, tossed with waves, for the wind was contrary. And in the 4th watch of the night, Jesus went unto them, walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, It is a spirit. And they cried out of fear. But straightway Jesus spake unto them, saying, Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. And Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it be thou, bid me come unto thee on the water. And he said, Come. And when Peter was down out of the ship, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. Never heard that Peter walked on the water too. But when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid. And beginning to sink, he cried, saying, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him, and said unto him, O thou of little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt? And when they were come unto the ship, the wind ceased. Then they that were in the ship came and worshipped him, saying, Of the truth, thou art the Son of God. They all knew the right thing to say. And he just sat there. That's right. That's right. See that shit? See what I just did there? Yeah, that's right. I'm so super humble. And when they were gone over, they came unto the land of Gennesaret. And when the men of that place had knowledge of him, they sent him out into all that country round about, and brought unto him all that were deceased, and besought him that they might only touch the hem of his garment, as many as touched were made perfectly whole. I mean, it's so fucking like arrogant white man kind of shit, right? Like, instead of just waving his Jesus hand and making everybody feel better, he was like, okay, who wants to touch me? Come on. If you can touch me, you can be healed. I'm not going to do shit if you don't touch me, but if you touch me, you're good to go. Talk about fucking insane. Why would people believe this shit? It's not like you read it and you go, oh, yeah, that's good stuff. That's clearly the truth. Obviously, I'm reading the most truest, bestest, bestical thing ever created. This just makes so much sense. I totally get it. That's not what happens when you read this. You read it and you just go, what the fuck is this shit? Just touch me. Uh-oh, you used some pedo stuff. Goodbye. Goodbye. No pedophile code words. Thank you. Yellow. Why does anybody believe that shit? I just don't understand how stupid you are. It's not like you can have a good, you can say to me, look at how obvious this is. How do you not believe this? It's all so obvious. It's so clear. It's so clearly true. What do you believe in? I believe there's a genocide taking place right now. I believe there's a genocide taking place right now. Good morning, guys.
Done. I just dusted off the TV. Turn on the hotspot.
Sweet.
I dusted off the TV.
With what?
A dust rag.
Did you use the soft one? A dust rag or a paper towel?
A dust rag.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Nice work, my
Let me
man.
play this.
Good morning. Pretty sure the hotspot's probably already on, unless you turned it off. Yeah, it's on. What's up, my dude? How you doing?
You go first today, Nick.
Like, I just don't understand what it is that's so... Oh, hey! You got some puke to clean up here. I don't understand what it is that motivates people. To me, motivation is logistics. Logistics always destroy like most of the argument, right? When you start breaking down the logistics, and motivation is often, it has to be included in the logistics. You have to be, you have to include the thing that made somebody do the thing in the first place, right? And so, you know, I'm always fascinated by it because every time I read the Bible, it's the same sort of thing. It's like I'm further away from the Bible with every little bit. I read my kids the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, and they were just mouths were open. They just couldn't believe how stupid that story is. And the whole Lot tried to give the rape mob his virgin daughters, and then the daughters had kids with the father, and they were just like appalled. And they just couldn't, like, they thought I was making it up or something. Like, they're like, no, people don't really believe this, do they, Dad? I'm like, yeah, dude, this is what people use to justify their bigotry, their hatred of gay people. And so you know, it's like this with every single bit of the Bible. There's not a single story that you can read that you just go, fuck yeah, that makes sense. That I can see how that works out. It's all just dumbass bullshit. And like I say, 95% of Christians don't know it. They might claim they do, but you start asking them about shit, they don't know anything. They can't quote to you, they might be able to quote to you a verse or two that they memorized because it sticks out to them for some reason, or because the explanation of that verse stuck out to them. But they don't know any of this shit. They're, insanely stupid. And it's stupid because with all the time that I've done this, and the thousands and thousands of views that I've had almost 1 million views in my time doing this. Not one of those people. This is actually, it used to happen very, very rarely with somebody claiming to be some sort of minister or something would come on the feed and talk a little bit. And I'm saying, like, it happened maybe 2 or 3 times. But since I've been doing this shit on YouTube, not a single minister, pastor, preacher, rabbi, nobody that supposedly actually knows this shit inside and out comes in and tries to have a discussion. And I've been open to it many times. And you would think, like, your Bible doesn't task you, doesn't charge you with finding people who don't, or people who believe the same thing you believe and just sit around and stroke each other. The Bible tells you to find people like me and convert us. Yet, at no point does anyone with any real biblical knowledge ever come in here and say anything. John 14:17, Jesus is the Holy Spirit. I'm going to just keep saying that because I'm going to prove the point, right? They're going to prove the point that they've memorized a verse or two, and they don't know what the previous verse is. They don't know what the following verse is, or what the chapter that this verse is in is talking about. But they pick and choose. They cherry pick their little verses. I don't know, to make themselves feel better. I don't really get it. There's no logical, adult, reasonable sort of engagement here. It's all just dumb shit. At the end of the day, the Bible is all Jewish. It's not about Christians. It's not about Gentiles. The Gentiles are a separate group of people that get mentioned periodically in the Bible. But all of the characters, all of the stories are Jewish fairy tales. And you can not like it. You can be mad. But that doesn't affect anything. Ephesians, you are saved by my grace through faith, not yourselves, lest anyone. Yeah, again, This is dumb. You can keep repeating stuff in your little. Oh, hey, did you see this?
Yeah, I know.
You can keep repeating some verses and shit because I guess that makes you feel better. But the fact that you can't actually address what I'm saying and debunk what I'm saying, and or like I say, even address it. Hey, what'd you think of that story of Sodom and Gomorrah?
Oh, that's just so weird.
Oh, that's just so weird. They don't like to answer for things. They just like saying shit, sending on these wild goose chases. Romans 1:16. You condemn yourself with your own logic. Oh, okay. Like, that in itself is such a stupid thing to say. You condemn yourself through logic. But that's what your Bible says. I mean, the reality is, the thing that made God angrier than anything else, that made him kick out his favorite slaves, because you have to remember, Adam was created to tend to the Garden of Eden. That was why he was created. He was created so that he could be God's little garden slave. And, you know, with all the animals in there, obviously fucking, making more animals, Adam got a little jealous and was like, hey, you know, I just sit around here and I just mow the lawn all day and clip branches and shit. Can't I have one of those again? But, and it's weird because when it comes to Eve, it's almost like, I guess Adam has the amnesia because he totally forgets about Lilith, who was his first wife. But she didn't listen very well. She was too headstrong, so she got kicked out. But like, you know, Adam's sole purpose was to maintain the garden. And so then when Eve comes around and, you know, they're doing their thing, like this is one of those things that God is all powerful. God is everywhere at all times. God sees everything, knows everything, and everything is part of God's plan. So where does God go? Because it seems like the Garden of Eden, Earth, is just like a kit in this dude's basement. And he has to go to work during the day. Because God leaves. And when God's gone, a snake just starts talking to Eve. So you have to think, like, Adam and Eve must have been just dumb fucking, you know, step above monkeys kind of people. Dude, cut the lawn. I'm the lawnmower man. Like, yay, cut the lawn. Because a snake starts talking to Eve and she doesn't think anything of it. You know, none of the other animals talk and shit. But the serpent starts talking to Eve and he's like, hey, you know that guy's like your fucking slave master, right? He doesn't like you. You know you know how you're like Eve, because Eve's just standing there like scratching her butt, scratching her cooch while she's talking to the snake. And the snake's like, you know why your cooch is all itchy, right? And she's like, itchy, I like that. Yeah, it's itchy. No, me not know why my coochie itchy. Butt itchy too, smell finger. And the snake's like, cause you got bugs and shit all in your shit. You're naked, girl. No woman should be walking around naked. What's wrong with you? You're in the fucking Garden of Eden. There's all kinds of creepy crawlies that are gonna get inside that, lay eggs and shit. You don't want that. She looks over at Adam, and Adam's asleep because I guess they just had sex. But at the same time, he's still scratching his butt because his butt's all itchy. He's laying on the ground. He's, you know, this isn't Swiss Family Robinson or anything. But the snake's like, you know, that dude's an asshole. There, see that tree, that one that you're not supposed to eat from with the big shiny red apples on it? He's like, yeah, that look good. All those apples that fall to the ground that other animals I would assume would have eaten from, right? Did all those animals get enlightened when they ate that fruit? Don't really know that. But the snake's like, well, you got to take a bite of that apple. And Eve's like, no, no, no. He said not to do it. I don't want to do it. He get mad at me, and you know what he did. You know what he did to Lilith. I don't want it to happen to me. And the snake's like, just trust me. You want your coochie to stop itching, right? And she's like, yeah, me do want coochie stop itching. Me fingers stink. Trust me, this will cure the coochie itch. This will cure coochie itch? Okay, I go take it. She takes a bite. And she has like that Google Earth experience where she goes way up and then comes back down. And she's like, holy shit, I'm fucking naked. Oh. It's a good thing I happen to know how to make clothes out of palm leaves. So she whips up a little sexy bikini. She goes and wakes up Adam and she's like, hey, stop scratching your butt. Me like it to feel good. Yeah, it's called itchy. Yeah, itchy, me like it. Well, hey, you gotta go take a bite of this. Why? Because it'll make your butt stop itching. My God said not to do it. Just trust me. You want another blowjob, right? Yeah, me like that. All right, go take a bite. So he goes and he takes a bite of the food, the fruit, the forbidden fruit. Instantly, he knows he's naked. He's like, fucking hey, can you make me some jorts? Can you make me some John Cena style palm leaf jorts? And he was like, boom, already got him. And just then, God comes home. And God comes into the Garden of Eden, and he's walking around going, Adam, wherefore art thou, Adam? Because Adam and Eve are hiding behind a tree. All-powerful, all-knowing God, who has a plan for everything and sees everything, knows everything, this close to the pedos, raping the clergy, raping children in the church and doing nothing about it. He couldn't find Adam and Eve. They were hiding in the Garden of Eden behind a tree. And they step out from behind the tree, and as soon as God sees them, he goes, oh, why are you not naked anymore? You took a bite from the tree, didn't you? And they were like, yeah, God, we did, but we're just so itchy and our fingers stink and it was just so bad. Listen to how you're talking. I don't like how you I thought it was cute the way you talked before. Now you're talking like you have sense and you're not naked anymore. Get out of here. I don't like you anymore. Get out of here. Get out of here. You take your dumb little boys with you. Because somehow they're kids. And they leave, and then Cain and Abel take wives from the people of Nod. Who are the people of Nod when Adam and Eve are the first two people? We don't get to figure that out. And this is what people actually believe, you guys. They don't necessarily know it because they don't know the narrative very well. But this is a basic example of what people believe. That because Adam and Eve didn't want to be stupid, mindless monkeys anymore, just tending to a garden, scratching their naked butts, God not only kicked them out, but also told Eve, and you will die. Lots of women from here on out will die all the time, and childbirth is going to be awful. That's going to be your punishment. Childbirth will be awful for women forever because you had to not be naked anymore. Get out of here. It's fucking stupid, man. It's fucking stupid. Look at how desperate these dumb Christians are. They're trying, they're saying anything they can because they can't actually debunk what I'm saying. So these good Christians are saying these horrible things just to get attention. What does that tell you? How come they don't just be like, dude, you're wrong about this. That's not what happened. Blah, blah. How come they're not saying that stuff? Why aren't they being the better Christians, the better people? They're fucking stupid. My poor kids, their dad doesn't push Christianity on them because that's worked out. That's been something real good for people, especially if they're different. It's just shocking, man. It's shocking how stupid people are and how they go out of their way to prove it. You're proving how stupid every Christian is. Notice how, again, there's not one person that actually knows things in a way that they can say I'm wrong. Right? Look at these dumb comments. This should be all the proof you need. Right? I mean, the fact is, there's way more proof against the Bible than there is for the Bible. And lack of evidence for something is evidence against something. So the fact that there's not any evidence to prove the Bible is true in any sort of way proves it's not true. But this is the dumbassery that comes my way, because this is all they have. Nothing against the Bible whatsoever, LOL. Just try to justify one thing. Oh, wait. The Bible's dumb. The fact that anybody feels like this is the part that's always great. Like, if you don't believe in the Bible, you're not supposed to say anything, because the people that do get offended and upset by what you're saying. If they were so positive and they knew what they were believing is the truth and all that stuff, why would they get upset at something some random person says that's to the contrary? The only reason that it works out that way is because they want us to be Christians, and they know that the more we look into it, the more we talk about it, the less likely we are to maintain that stupid-ass belief structure. That's why so many adults that claim to be Christian know nothing about it. Because they started reading it and they were like, ugh, this is making me feel weird, I don't like this, so they would stop. Mark the NT, he destroys all evil. What the fuck you talking about? You're, Y-O-U-R, making your bed, and you will lay in it when you die. This, again, this is someone dumb enough to actually use both, to need to use two different yours within 3 words of each other, and yet uses the same your. We're supposed to believe this guy is any bit intelligent, right? I love when they do this stuff. I love when they do this stuff. And the reality is, if I'm wrong, if I fucking die and I wake up and I'm standing at the pearly gates and I got to talk to St. Peter and you know, it's like, well, what did you do? Well, I spoke out against the pedophilia. I spoke out against the exploitation. I didn't believe any of this shit because, you know, it's used against us in such foul ways. I can't understand why God is so complete or so cool with pedophilia. Like I want nothing to do with that God to begin with. I can't imagine how I am going to be chastised for doing and saying the right things. If that shit was true, which it's not, it's dumb as fuck. Moses begged God not to kill Israelites for their sin, and God listened, he pushed back. What is this shit? Like, this is, it's weird how people can't argue the point, so they just start talking about nonsense. starts telling Bible stories and shit. Like that fucking matters. Who cares what the Bible said happened a couple hundred years ago? How does that, couple thousand years ago, how does that...
Then come down here, where you put that one box. Drop
It's
that.
gonna rain!
Drop it. Drop it. Yeah, look. My pet's carrying a boom barrel.
Nice. They sound like they hate me, don't they? These Christians are the quintessential examples of like the person I want nothing to do with. I want nothing to be like. As long as you get to go to heaven, you'll turn your back on the worst things possible.
Look, this thing explodes.
I doubt it. You're probably immune to that explosion.
Yeah, I can throw it at people.
I know, but you're probably immune to it.
Not really, my pet's grabbed it.
Oh. State your opinion. Where does creation come from? Why would I care? I know I don't have the answers to that. Personally, I think we're just we're a reality TV show. We're the ultimate reality TV show. And we live in a completely manufactured system. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to sit here and argue it because I can't. There's nothing, everything that exists requires a common sense point of view, and we all know you guys can't do that. So it's not like I can provide evidence, and even if I did, you guys wouldn't look. You guys, I show you future Prime Minister Naftali Bennett bragging about how they control Wikipedia, then read Wikipedia where they talk about how they have an automated system called Team Jorge. Well, there's one Israeli black ops organization was exposed as being one of these troll farms. That doesn't mean all of it was exposed, but I show you how they use a system called Advanced Impact Media Solutions, or AIMS, to automate centralized control of thousands of bot farm run social media profiles, fake social media profiles. Then I show you again on Wikipedia, using the information that we're supposed to have, how they also have an app or social media platforms specifically designed to encourage the people to find and disrupt pages like mine, videos like mine, while earning points and shit, prizes. And like, I've proven everything. I prove everything I say using the information they want us to have. It's not like I'm Alex Jones. Oh, Alex Jones said this and Alex Jones said that. That's not how it works. I read what they want us to know. Plain and simple. That's the best source, because that's what they say. Naftali Bennett says it's the #1 source of information, and they want to be there influencing people when they look things up. So when you look up something like the Gaza flotilla, they want to be there to make sure that the information you get is balanced and Zionist in nature. That's how this works. Alex is not a nut job. Alex does what he's told. Alex is a character. A character being played. And his job is to provide you with the conspiracies that they deem acceptable, because they know not everybody is going to be dumb enough to fall for Christianity. Not everybody's going to be dumb enough to fall for the two-party system. So they know a lot of us are going to be questioning things, and there needs to be that side of it. And if we're going to be questioning things, we're either going to organically unite, or if they provide us somebody to unite behind, then we will. And that's just how that works. They give us the Alex Jones, so then we don't create our own leader. We don't create our own, system. We follow an Alex Jones system. It's how they operate. This is a system that they have set up for them. They're clearly winning. And as long as they can keep us stupid and believing in a God and believing that we have to wait for the Savior to come fix everything. We have to. The craziest part is that they've convinced everyone that the best case scenario is that the Savior comes down, and all of you good Christians, all of you that have been following all the rules you're supposed to follow, which is maybe like 17 of you, but all of you good ones, you immediately get raptured. As soon as Jesus' little foot touches the ground, the rapture comes and takes you away, while the rest of us all die in Armageddon. There's maybe 2 billion Christians worldwide. There's 8 billion plus people. So at least 6 billion people have to die in a horrible Armageddon death so you can go to heaven early. That's your best case scenario. That's how fucking, absolutely brainwashed you are. Not all of bad guy land is bad. Yeah, it is. Yeah. None of it should be there. You don't just go take somebody else's place because you want it, because of a manufactured narrative from a couple of thousand miles away. It's so stupid. Lots of people talk about how both world wars were about destroying a lot of the old world architecture and all that, and I believe that. But another huge part of both world wars is the establishing of bad guy land. The First World War was about putting the British in charge of Palestine. So you have British mandatory Palestine, whatever the fuck that even means. And you get the Palestinian people reliant on the British to protect them, to handle all the goods and services and all. The British controlled Palestine. So that when suddenly the British just turned around, they didn't even pull out, they just turned around, there was no Palestinian military to defend against the invasion. And they just made fucking Israel. They just created it. It's crazy. In 46, the first offer was sort of given where they said, all right, well, here, how about this? How about the Palestinians, you get 44% of your land, and we're going to give the Israelis 56% of your land. And, rightfully the Palestinians were like, fuck no. And because they didn't accept the offer, well, then they lost 86% of their land. Palestine isn't a real country. Again, anybody who starts going down that road, they heard Charlie Kirk say it or some shit, and now they run with it. Like it's the dumbest fucking argument there is. Clearly, Palestine has been a country for a very long time. Maps, all old kinds of old world maps and all that. Lots of places show Palestine. What they don't show is Israel. Israel was created in 48. May of 1948, the Nakba. But see, the real thing with that argument is that even if there was no such place as Palestine, it's called Judea and Samaria, blah, blah, blah. The argument isn't what the fucking place is called or what you think it's called. The argument is that there's a genocide taking place, and one psychopathic cult is killing off another group of people. The invisible borders don't matter. You know, that's all just bullshit. That's just the walls of the prison that they keep us in, and we accept it. You know, it's like we know there's an electric fence and we have a collar on. We don't want to cross it. We got the gun line here, boss. Tell them about the gun line. The stupid ass arguments that get made in this regard, it's just obviously this is a new program that's gone out. You know, they decided this was a good argument and they put it out. Palestine's not even a place. I don't know what you're talking about. I've never heard of it. And it's this way of dehumanizing people. Like, it's a really abusive tactic. But if you dehumanize people, if you delegitimize people and their existence, then you get to, you know, it just makes the genocide of that people that much easier. The thing is, it's not like any of these profiles that support bad guy land or support that cult. It's not like any of them are like red-blooded American, Christian, blah, blah, blah. Who's going to think that way? What Christians are like, fuck yeah, let's keep giving our American tax dollars to this genocidal fucking first world country so they can kill peasant people? That money's not better spent at home. $3.8 billion a year on the base level. And if you believe in that God that watches all this take place, like, again, I want nothing to do with that piece of shit. That fucking guy can eat a whole bag of dicks as far as I'm concerned. Your God has the power to dinkle, dinkle, dink and make all the bad stuff go away, stop the children from being genocided through starvation, and it doesn't do it. It's protecting its chosen people. Like, what kind of fucked up shit is that? I want nothing to do with that motherfucker. You know, your God is a joke. It's if your God exists, it's the worst fucking deity of all time. It's just such a horrible, callous, heartless piece of shit that I can't imagine why anybody would ever even come close to believing in that shit. It's fucking stupid. Yeah. Like it's used to protect children being violated by clergy because, well, they're clergy, so they don't have to have the same punishments that the rest of us would have. Oh, they're going to get exported off to the Vatican, and the Vatican doesn't have an extradition treaty, so They'll just live their life out in penance. Don't worry, they'll pay for it. Never mind the Vatican at nighttime. You'll be cowering in fear, blah, blah, blah. Yep. I can't imagine fearing my God. If I'm going to believe in the God that loves me and all that, I'm not going to fear it. Well, you know how sensitive God is, right? You know, you don't do this, you don't do that, you're going to burn in hell for all of eternity. You're going to burn in the fire furnace when the angels come and throw you in a furnace. Oh, man, what kind of fucking insane shit. You won't be saying that face to face with God. I am face to face with God right now, right? What a dumbass. You think God is like some superhero. You know, you watch too many Marvel movies and shit. You're so stupid. I would absolutely, if it turned out that there was a God and I got to be face to face with him, I would be like, why the fuck would you have let so many children be raped and fucking just tortured by your clergy? I definitely want to know that answer. And I'd love to know how God would well, it's all part of my plan. I'd love to know how that's the plan. How do you watch the bad guys starve out an entire population that's been whittled down to mostly children? How do you do that? You just watch that shit happen? What you waiting for? Let me see the prayer jar that has to get filled up before you send Jesus back down to make everything right again. What are we waiting for? How bad does it have to get before Jesus will come down and right all the wrongs? Sit here, have a conversation with God. Get the fuck out of here, face-to-face conversation. What kind of childish bullshit is this? Blah, 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 man, blah, 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 blah. Imagine being your dad, and your dad sees you come on here, and you can't actually argue against anything I say, so you just start saying dumb shit. I bet your dad would be super proud of you. You're supposed to believe in the shit, and you can't make better arguments than me. You don't know more about your shit than I do. That's for damn sure. You know, I mean, it's insane. They have us insane. The majority of the people believe in something that is, in any other case, like if you changed the names of the characters in the Bible, if you called it the Kuntash, I read the Kuntash, and there's this being that controls everything called Tim, and Tim had a son named Steve, and Steve died for all of my sins, for all of my misgivings. We don't use the word sins. Everybody be like, dude, you're fucking crazy. You need to go get looked at. No, it's cool. I give money to this organization and shit. Even when I'm down to my last few dollars, I still find a way to give money to the organization. The organization keeps getting caught raping children and shit, but you know, that's all part of Tim's plan. People would be like, no, dude, that's awful. Children, do you know there's children being raped? Oh my God, why would you believe in such a thing? You need Jesus. And you see, just like the dumbass Trumpanzees, when they can't start making arguments like, hey, why do you even support Trump? What has he done to warrant your affections? They go, MAGA 28. The Christians do the same thing. They can't say anything, so they just, Christ is Lord, Christ is Lord. They just start parroting dumb shit. Because they can't. Their brain is fucking, you know, they're trying to, I'm the bad guy for pointing out that your God watches children get raped. And you're sitting here trying to make me the bad guy. That has to fuck with your brain a little bit. Right? That has to fuck with your common sense and your sensibilities and all that shit. Like, you're sitting here defending the thing that rapes children, that watches children get raped, and you're like, you're okay with it? You're mad at the guy that's trying to, that's calling that shit out? What's that tell you about yourself? You're fucked up, man. You are fucked up. Anyway, this is way longer than I wanted to be here. My fucking body is killing me. Go get your free download, www.the-bilderberg, BILDERBERG-group.com. This link, as well as others, will be in the description. It's free. It's going to ask you how much you want to download or how much you want to pay to download. You can put 0 and it's free, or you can put money in, and that'd be cool too. We appreciate when you do. I'm going to leave you a link to the best film ever made, called Hollywoodism, which again, I always challenge my troll viewership. Go watch Hollywoodism and then come back and tell me what I'm getting wrong. Just like you should go watch the first 9 parts of this if you want to talk about submarines. Go debunk me in the submarines thing. Go make me look stupid. Do something. Do something. But go watch Hollywoodism. It's the most important film ever made. It's them being audacious enough to make a film about not necessarily exactly how they created Hollywood, but that they created Hollywood. They control Hollywood. They always have. They always will. And they use it to manipulate the public into being you could say the American dream is the bad guy-ish dream. It's literally said in the movie that they've created a reality that they wanted, that works for them using Hollywood. So that involves history, that involves politics, that involves, entertainment. That's everything is all manipulated by Hollywood. And they made the movie talking about it. It's not a conspiracy movie. It's just a bragging movie that they made because they're so fucking stupid. I'm also going to leave you 2 links to 2 of our songs, COVID Sauce and Donald Trump Hates America. We have another new one we had another one that dropped called What Up, Doe, and then we have another one that's about to drop that you'll have to hear when it does. And it's funny when you hear it, remember it was written months ago. But go check out those things, like, share, sub here, do all that stuff. But the most important thing I always say, because the society we live in doesn't handle this right, we're not allowed to do it. The system, when you get caught, slaps you on the wrist and lets you go again. So all of you pedos out there, do one good thing in your life. One good thing and make the world a better place by killing yourself.